Hello guys, welcome to Fictional Vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was the Sorcerer King, wielding anti-magic and unlimited mana. Naruto x Mereoleona, Black Clover. If you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to show us some love by hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Your support means the world to us. Now, let's start the story. Chapter 1. The King Without a Crown. Naruto's head pounded like a drum as he forced his eyes open. The last thing he remembered was investigating strange energy readings at the Valley of the End, a weird distortion Sasuke had reported before leaving on another one of his redemption journeys. What the hell hit me? Naruto groaned, sitting up and rubbing his temples. Unfamiliar trees towered above him, nothing like the forests around Konoha. The air felt different too, charged with something that wasn't chakra but similar enough to make his skin tingle. He reached for his connection to Kurama out of habit. "Hey, Fox, you there? Been waiting for you to wake up, Kit. Something's wrong with this place." "No kidding. Where are we?" "Definitely not the elemental nations. The energy here is different. I can feel it trying to interact with your chakra in strange ways." Naruto stood up, brushing dirt from his black and orange jacket. "Great. Just great. Hinata's gonna kill me for missing dinner." He jumped to the nearest tree branch to get a better view but misjudged his chakra control. Instead of a smooth landing, he shot up like a rocket, soaring hundreds of feet into the air. "What the?" Naruto yelped as he pinwheeled his arms. The ground below shrank to a patchwork of forests and fields. In the distance, a massive castle rose from a sprawling city, and further away, other settlements dotted the landscape. This was definitely not fire country. As gravity remembered its job, Naruto began plummeting. He formed a Rasengan instinctively to slow his fall, but instead of the usual blue spiral, the energy turned gold and expanded to 3 times its normal size. "That's new," he shouted, eyes wide as the golden sphere cushioned his crash into the forest below, pulverizing several trees but leaving him unharmed. "Your chakra is reacting to the ambient energy here," Kurama observed. "Seems like you've got more power but less control." Naruto dusted himself off again. "So I've got supercharged jutsu but suck at using them? Awesome." A branch snapped behind him. Naruto spun around to find 5 men surrounding him, each holding a strange grimoire floating before them. They wore tattered clothes and had hungry, desperate looks in their eyes. "Hand over your valuables, stranger," the largest one demanded, a ball of fire hovering above his palm. "Don't make this difficult." Naruto sighed. "Different world, same problems." "Look, I don't want trouble, fire magic, burning cage," the man interrupted, sending flames rushing toward Naruto. Acting on instinct, Naruto raised his hand to block, and something incredible happened. The flames curved around his palm like water around a rock, dissipating into nothing. "What the hell?" the fire user gasped. "How'd he do that?" another bandit with stones orbiting around him demanded. "Earth magic, stone javelin." The rocks shot forward like bullets. Naruto, still processing what happened with the fire, slapped the rocks away, and they crumbled to dust on contact. "Kit, your chakra is neutralizing their energy," Kurama said excitedly. "It's like that kid with the black sword from the exams. Anti-magic." "Magic?" Naruto muttered. "That's what they're using." The bandits backed away, faces pale. "He's negating our magic with his bare hands. Is he from Diamond Kingdom? One of their experiments? I'm not feeling anything from him, no mana at all." Naruto created a shadow clone, and all 5 men jumped back in shock. He created a perfect copy without a spell or grimoire. The leader regained his composure. "Doesn't matter what tricks he has. Get him." All 5 attacked simultaneously, fire, earth, water, and 2 wind users combining. "They're magic." Naruto grinned. This might be a good test of what he could do here. He formed a Rasengan in each hand, but unlike the golden one from before, these pulsed with a strange black-purple energy that seemed to devour the light around them. "What the hell kind of magic is that?" one bandit whispered. Rasengan. Naruto slammed the spiraling spheres into the incoming magic attacks. The result was immediate and dramatic. The magical elements didn't just disperse, they were consumed by the dark energy, which grew larger with each spell it devoured. "Anti-magic and unlimited mana," Naruto whispered, staring at his hands as the bandits fled screaming into the forest. "That's a new one." 3 days of wandering led Naruto to a small village nestled against the edge of a dense forest. Unlike the grand castle he'd spotted during his unplanned flight, this place looked poor and run down. As he approached, he noticed children playing with sticks and rocks instead of toys. Adults worked fields with crude tools rather than the farming equipment he'd seen in more developed nations. "You lost, stranger," an old man called from a rickety porch. "Kind of," Naruto admitted, approaching the elder. "Mind telling me where I am?" The old man squinted. "Forsaken village. Least that's what the nobles call it. We just call it home." "Forsaken? Why?" "'Cause most folks here got no magic or weak magic," the man said with a shrug. "Kingdom don't care much for people who can't contribute magical power." Naruto frowned. "They abandon you because you can't use magic. Way of the world, son. Strong magic means everything in the Clover Kingdom." "Clover Kingdom," Naruto repeated. "That's where we are." The old man gave him a strange look. "You hit your head or something? Where'd you think you were?" Before Naruto could answer, shouts erupted from the center of the village. The old man's face hardened. "Tax collectors," he spat. "Early this month. Means they're hoping to catch us short." Naruto followed the commotion to find 3 men in elaborate purple robes standing in the village square. One held a grimoire with a clover symbol, using wind magic to knock an elderly woman to the ground as she pleaded for more time. "The Magic Knights protect this region at great expense," the apparent leader said loudly. "Your taxes support this protection. Failure to pay is treason against the Clover Kingdom. We had a poor harvest," a farmer protested. "Give us another week." "The law is clear," the tax collector replied, his grimoire glowing as he prepared another spell. Naruto had seen enough. He appeared between the fallen woman and the tax collector in a flash. "Pick on someone your own size," he growled. The tax collector blinked in surprise, then laughed. "And who might you be?" "Name's Naruto Uzumaki. And I don't like bullies." The 3 men exchanged amused glances. "Step aside, peasant, or we'll assume you're interfering with royal business." Naruto didn't move. "You can have your taxes when these people can afford to pay. Until then, get lost." "Water magic, binding chains," one collector shouted, sending liquid ropes shooting toward Naruto. Naruto didn't even try to dodge. The water magic hit his chest and instantly evaporated, leaving not even a drop on his clothes. The tax collector stared in shock. "My turn," Naruto said, forming a cross with his fingers. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 20 perfect copies of Naruto appeared, surrounding the tax collectors. "What is this?" the leader demanded, backing away. "Where's your grimoire?" "Don't need one," all the Narutos replied in unison. "Now leave these people alone, or I'll show you what real power looks like." The tax collectors weren't completely stupid. Outnumbered and facing unknown magic, they backed away. "The Magic Parliament will hear about this," the leader threatened. "This village is now under investigation for harboring a dangerous foreign element." They mounted their brooms, actually flew away on brooms, which Naruto found both ridiculous and impressive, and disappeared toward the castle in the distance. The villagers stared at Naruto in silence until the old man from earlier approached. "Don't know what you just did, son," he said quietly, "but you've put a target on this village." Naruto dispelled his clones with a puff of smoke. "Then I'll deal with it." Nobody deserves to be treated like trash because they can't use magic. A small crowd gathered around him. You really have no mana, a middle-aged woman observed. Yet you created perfect duplicates without a grimoire. Where are you from? Asked another villager. It's complicated, Naruto replied. Let's just say I'm from very far away, and things work differently there. That night, the village elders held a council meeting in the largest hut, with Naruto as their guest of honor. They explained the magical hierarchy of their world, how those with stronger magic received better education, opportunities, and status, while those with weak or no magic were relegated to the margins of society. The magic knights will come, a thin man named Jiren warned. They'll claim you're a threat. Let them come, Naruto replied, leaning against the wall. I've dealt with people who judge others by the power they're born with all my life. Nothing new there. An elderly woman named Mora studied him closely. You speak with conviction, young man. Have you led people before? Naruto grinned. I was training to become the Hokage, the leader of my village, before I ended up here. And what kind of leader would you have been? She pressed. The kind who protects everyone, especially those nobody else will stand up for. The elders exchanged meaningful glances. We've lived under the Clover Kingdom's neglect for generations, Jiren said. Perhaps it's time for a change. Word spread quickly. Within 2 weeks, people from other, forsaken, villages began arriving, those with no magic, weak magic, or those who simply tired of the kingdom's rigid hierarchy. They brought what little they owned, offering skills instead of magical power. Naruto created hundreds of shadow clones to help build new housing, clear fields, and establish defenses. His unique abilities, chakra techniques that looked like magic but weren't, plus his strange anti-magic properties, became the stuff of whispered legend. A month after his arrival, their settlement had tripled in size. Naruto established training programs teaching civilians to defend themselves without magic. He used his sensory abilities to detect approaching threats and shadow clones to maintain constant surveillance. We need a name, said Jiren during one council meeting, now expanded to include representatives from all the joined villages. Something that represents what we're building here. Naruto thought of his lost home and the village his mother had come from. Uzushio, he suggested. It means, whirling tides. A place where many currents come together to form something powerful. Uzushio, Mora repeated, smiling. I like it. Life settled into a rhythm. Naruto spent his mornings training, afternoons teaching self-defense, and evenings in council meetings. He missed Konoha fiercely but found purpose in protecting these people who had been cast aside by their society, just as he once had been. He was chopping wood outside his small hut when a child came running up the path. Naruto. Strangers approaching from the forest. Lots of them. Dropping the axe, Naruto created a clone. Alert the defense teams. I'll check it out. He leapt into the trees, covering ground quickly until he spotted them, a group of about 50 people trudging through the forest. Unlike the earlier arrivals, these looked injured, with torn clothes and exhausted expressions. Naruto dropped down in front of them. A tall man with a scar across his face stepped forward. Are you him? The one they call the anti-mage? I'm Naruto. Who's asking? My name is Drez. These are my people from Ebonreach village, the man explained. Diamond Kingdom soldiers attacked 3 days ago. They were experimenting on anyone with unusual magical abilities. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Experiments? They're trying to create artificial magic users by harvesting mana from those with rare attributes, Drez said, voice tight with anger. We escaped during the chaos when they collected the successful subjects for transport. A woman stepped forward, cradling a child with bandaged arms. We heard rumors about a settlement where people are judged by their character, not their magic. Is it true? Naruto looked at their hopeful, desperate faces and felt something clench in his chest. It's true, he replied. Follow me. As they approached Uzushio, Naruto was struck by how much it had changed. Proper buildings now stood where tents had been. Fields stretched along the eastern edge, and a wooden wall surrounded the perimeter. It wasn't Konoha, but it was becoming a real village. Mora met them at the gate, her eyes widening at the refugees' condition. Prepare the healing houses, she ordered a nearby assistant. They were experimented on by Diamond Kingdom, Naruto explained. Mora's expression hardened. The Diamond Kingdom hasn't crossed into Clover territory in years. They're getting bolder, Drez said. Taking anyone with unique magical attributes for their experiments. Later that evening, after the refugees had been settled, Naruto sat with the council in their meeting hall, now a proper building instead of a repurposed hut. Diamond Kingdom to the west, Clover Kingdom breathing down our necks from the east, Jiren summarized. We're caught between greater powers. We need more information, Naruto said. I'll head to this dungeon Drez mentioned. If Diamond Kingdom is operating on Clover territory, there's something bigger happening. You can't go alone, Mora protested. Naruto grinned. I'm never alone. He formed his signature hand sign, and a shadow clone appeared. Besides, I need to see what we're up against. The ancient dungeon rose from the forest like a stone tumor, its entrance partially concealed by vines and moss. According to Drez, Diamond Kingdom researchers had been using it as a forward base for their experiments, having discovered ancient magical artifacts inside. Naruto approached cautiously, extending his senses. The dungeon radiated strange energy, not quite chakra, not quite the mana of this world, but something in between. Be careful, Kit, Kurama warned. This place is old. Reminds me of the sage's time. You feel it too. Something familiar about the energy. Like it's connected to chakra somehow. A missing link. Naruto slipped inside the entrance, moving silently through darkened corridors. Torches flickered along the walls, casting long shadows. He heard voices ahead and pressed his back against the wall, listening. The king will be displeased if we return empty-handed, a harsh voice said. Morris wants at least 3 more subjects with rare attributes. The pickings are getting slim, another voice replied. That cursed anti-mage has been sheltering potential subjects in his settlement. Then perhaps we should collect him instead. Morris would love to dissect someone who can negate magic without a grimoire. Naruto had heard enough. He formed a Rasengan, but kept it small and controlled. No need for overkill. He rounded the corner to find 2 Diamond Kingdom soldiers in their distinctive green uniforms. Looking for me? The soldiers whirled around, reaching for their grimoires. Earth magic, stone prison, one shouted. The ground beneath Naruto shifted, walls of stone rising to cage him. He simply touched the rising rocks, and they crumbled to dust. Water magic, pressure bullets, the second soldier attacked. Naruto dodged the water projectiles and closed the distance in a flash, slamming his Rasengan into the floor between them. The controlled explosion sent both soldiers flying into the walls, knocking them unconscious. Too easy, he muttered, continuing deeper into the dungeon. The passages grew older as he descended, with ancient script etched into the walls. Naruto couldn't read it, but Kurama stirred with recognition. This writing is similar to the sage's era. This world has some connection to ours. Maybe that's how I got here. Some kind of ancient portal? Possibly. Keep going. The corridor opened into a vast chamber with a ceiling that disappeared into darkness. At its center stood a stone altar, and hovering above it was a glowing crystal that pulsed with multicolored light. But Naruto wasn't alone. A woman stood examining the crystal, her back to him. Her wild mane of crimson hair cascaded down her back, and she wore what appeared to be armor with a flowing cape. Even from behind, she radiated power and confidence. Naruto stepped forward. Diamond Kingdom running experiments with your blessing, or are you here to stop them too? The woman turned, and Naruto's breath caught in his throat. Her fierce eyes locked onto him like a predator spotting prey, a small smile playing at her lips. A strange mark, was that a paw print, adorned her forehead. "So you're the famous anti-mage I've been hearing about," she said, her voice a growl of barely contained power. "You don't look like much." Naruto crossed his arms. "And you are?" "Mereoleona Vermilion, captain of the Crimson Lion Kings." Fire began dancing around her hands. "And you're trespassing in Clover Kingdom territory, harboring fugitives, and interfering with royal affairs." "Funny, I thought I was protecting innocent people from being experimented on," Naruto replied, not backing down. "Or does the Clover Kingdom approve of Diamond's human experiments?" Her eyes narrowed. "Of course not. I'm here to investigate reports of Diamond Kingdom incursions." "Then we want the same thing," Naruto said. "The people they experimented on are under my protection now." Mereoleona laughed, a sound like crackling flames. "Your protection? A magicless nobody playing hero in the forest?" Naruto's eyes flashed red momentarily as Kurama's chakra surged in response to his irritation. "Test me if you want to find out how magicless I am." Mereoleona's grin widened, flames erupting around her entire body. "I thought you'd never ask." She moved like lightning, closing the distance between them in a heartbeat. "Fire magic, Calidus Brachium." Her flame-covered fist shot toward Naruto's face. He raised his hand, catching her punch. The flames dissipated on contact with his palm, leaving only the physical force of her blow, which was considerable. Surprise flashed across her face. "You really can negate magic." "Told you," Naruto grinned, pushing her back. "Now we can do this the hard way, or, I only do things the hard way." She launched into a flurry of attacks, each faster than the last. Naruto dodged and blocked, impressed by her speed and power even without magic. When he created shadow clones to surround her, she merely laughed with delight. Multiple copies without a grimoire. Fascinating. She unleashed a roaring inferno that filled the chamber, forcing Naruto to channel his chakra differently. Instead of negating her magic, he matched it with his own power, creating a swirling barrier of wind nature chakra. Their energies clashed in spectacular fashion, illuminating ancient carvings neither had noticed before. The crystal on the altar began pulsing faster. "Kit, something's happening with that crystal. Your chakra and her magic are activating it." "Little busy right now, Kurama." Mereoleona paused, noticing the crystal's reaction. "What did you do?" "Nothing. It's responding to our fight." The crystal pulsed violently, then emitted a piercing tone that made both fighters cover their ears. The chamber began to shake, dust and small rocks falling from above. "Trap spell," Mereoleona growled. "This whole place is collapsing." Larger chunks of ceiling crashed down. Naruto spotted Diamond Kingdom soldiers rushing into the chamber from a side passage, drawn by the commotion. "Truce," he suggested to Mereoleona. She gave a curt nod, turning toward the soldiers. "Clover Kingdom business. Stand down or burn." They didn't stand down. Grimoires floating, they launched attacks at both Naruto and Mereoleona. Working together was surprisingly easy. Naruto negated magical attacks aimed at them both while Mereoleona unleashed devastating counterattacks. They moved in sync as if they'd trained together for years. "The crystal!" Naruto shouted as a massive section of ceiling descended toward the altar. "It's important." Mereoleona didn't question him. She launched herself toward the altar, flames propelling her like jets. She snatched the crystal moments before the stone slab crushed the altar. "Exits blocked," she called, tucking the crystal into a pouch. Naruto formed his most powerful Rasengan yet, the sphere pulsing with golden light. "I'll make a new one. Get behind me." He slammed the Rasengan into the nearest wall, channeling as much chakra as he could without losing control. The explosion was deafening, blasting a tunnel through solid rock and out into daylight. Move! Naruto grabbed Mereoleona's arm and pulled her into the makeshift escape route as the chamber fully collapsed behind them. They emerged onto a cliffside, breathing heavily as dust billowed from the ruined entrance. That was adequate, Mereoleona said, brushing debris from her crimson hair. Naruto laughed. High praise coming from you, I bet. She studied him openly now, curiosity replacing hostility. You're not magicless at all. Your power is simply different. Where I come from, we use chakra, not mana, Naruto explained, deciding honesty might be the best approach. I'm still figuring out how it works here. And where exactly do you come from? A place called Konoha, in the land of fire. Seeing her blank expression, he added, I don't think it exists in your world. I got transported here somehow. Mereoleona's eyes widened slightly. Another world? A distant explosion interrupted their conversation. Smoke rose from the direction of Uzushio. My people, Naruto gasped, already running toward the edge of the cliff. What are you? Mereoleona began, but stopped when golden chakra enveloped Naruto, forming a glowing cloak. Thanks for the temporary truce, he called over his shoulder. But I've got to go. He leapt from the cliff, using his chakra to propel himself in huge bounds toward the distant smoke. Behind him, Mereoleona watched with an unreadable expression before summoning her own flames to pursue. Naruto arrived to chaos. Diamond Kingdom soldiers had launched a surprise attack on Uzushio, clearly searching for their escaped test subjects. The wooden walls were burning in several places, and the defenders were struggling to hold the perimeter. Rage building, Naruto summoned hundreds of shadow clones and sent them charging into battle. He himself headed for the largest concentration of attackers, a group led by a tall man in elaborate robes. Morris, we found 3 with compatible attributes, a soldier reported. But no sign of the anti-mage. Take them and go, the leader ordered. We have what you have nothing. Naruto roared, golden chakra flaring around him as he landed in their midst. Morris, apparently the leader, turned with academic interest. Fascinating. You must be the anti-mage. Your energy signature is unlike anything I've ever seen. Let them go, Naruto demanded, seeing 3 villagers bound in magical restraints. I think not, Morris replied calmly, pushing his glasses up his nose. Do you know how rare anti-magic properties are? The subjects who can negate spells are particularly valuable. I'm not asking again. Morris sighed. Restrain him. Soldiers surrounded Naruto, grimoires glowing. He didn't wait for their attack. Extending his senses to locate every Diamond Kingdom soldier in the vicinity, he formed a massive raisin shuriken overhead. Everyone from Uzushio, get down, he shouted. The wind chakra shuriken expanded to enormous size, crackling with golden energy. Naruto had carefully calibrated it, lethal enough to threaten but controlled enough not to kill if they surrendered. Last chance to leave, he warned. Morris stared at the massive jutsu with undisguised fascination. Magnificent. Absolutely magnificent. Fall back. We need proper preparation for this specimen. The soldiers retreated, dragging their captives with them. Naruto started forward, but Morris raised a hand. One step and these 3 die, he threatened, placing a hand near one captive's throat, where strange magical markings were etched into the skin. I can activate the experimental runes with a thought. Naruto hesitated, jutsu still swirling overhead. A streak of flame shot past him, striking Morris with such speed he had no time to react. Mereoleona Vermilion stood over his crumpled form, flames dancing around her fist. Diamond Kingdom is violating international treaties, she growled. In the name of the Clover Kingdom, you are all under arrest. The soldiers froze, caught between retreating and following their leader's orders. Taking advantage of their hesitation, Naruto created more shadow clones to free the captives. Morris stirred, blood trickling from his mouth as he glared up at Mereoleona. The Clover Kingdom has grown weak. Diamond will rise with the power of our experiments. Not today, she replied, knocking him unconscious with a casual blow. With their leader down, the remaining diamond soldiers surrendered or fled. Naruto's clones pursued the runners while he checked on the freed captives. "Thank you," one whispered, trembling as a clone removed the magical restraints. "They were going to cut us open to study our magic circuits." Naruto's expression darkened. "You're safe now." He turned to find Mereoleona watching him, arms crossed. "You didn't have to help," he said. "But I'm glad you did. Diamond Kingdom conducting experiments on Clover citizens is my business," she replied. "Though I notice most of these people have magical attributes that would make them valuable to Julius." "Julius? The Wizard King," she explained. "He collects rare magic types. Does he experiment on them too?" Naruto asked sharply. Mereoleona laughed. "Of course not. Julius would sooner cut off his own arm than harm someone with interesting magic." They walked through the village together, surveying the damage. Despite the attack, casualties were minimal thanks to Naruto's early warning system and the defense training he'd implemented. "Your people fought well for non-magic users," Mereoleona observed. "They don't need magic to be strong," Naruto replied. "Where I come from, we believe the will to protect what's precious to you creates true strength." Something flashed in Mereoleona's eyes, respect, perhaps. "A sentiment I understand." They reached the village center, where grateful residents were already beginning repairs. Seeing Naruto, many stopped to bow or call out thanks. "They look at you like a king," Mereoleona noted. Naruto scratched his head awkwardly. "I'm just helping out until I can find a way home." "And yet you've built something remarkable here." She gestured around them. "A place where strength of character matters more than magical ability. It's unorthodox, but impressive." Before Naruto could respond, Jiren approached with several council members. "Naruto. Thank the spirits you returned when you did." He eyed Mereoleona cautiously. "And you've brought a magic knight captain?" "She helped save our people," Naruto explained. "This is Mereoleona Vermilion." To his surprise, Mereoleona gave a curt but respectful nod to the elders. "Your settlement defended itself admirably against trained soldiers." Jiren relaxed slightly. "Thanks to Naruto's training. He's taught us that magic isn't everything." "A controversial position," Mereoleona remarked. "But the right one," Naruto insisted. "Nobody should be treated as worthless because they were born different." Mora stepped forward, her wise eyes moving between Naruto and Mereoleona. "Captain Vermilion, what happens now? Will the Clover Kingdom force us to disband?" Mereoleona considered the question. "Officially, settlements require royal charter. Unofficially." She glanced at Naruto. "The Forsaken region has always been ignored by the nobility. As long as you don't threaten the kingdom, I suspect the Magic Parliament will continue that tradition of neglect." "And Diamond Kingdom?" Jiren pressed. "I'll ensure they understand the consequences of further incursions," she replied with a predatory smile that made several elders step back. As night fell, the village gathered for a communal meal, part celebration of their victory, part mourning for those injured or killed. Naruto sat with the council, Mereoleona joining them at Mora's invitation. "We need better defenses," Naruto was saying. "Today proved wooden walls aren't enough." "Without magic, what options do we have?" asked a newer council member. "We adapt," Naruto replied. "Use the terrain, set traps, train everyone to fight smarter." Mereoleona watched him sketch plans in the dirt with a stick, her expression thoughtful. "You think like a military commander." "I fought in a war," Naruto said simply. "Lost a lot of friends because we weren't prepared." Their conversation was interrupted when a young girl approached, offering Naruto a crude wooden crown decorated with wildflowers. "What's this?" he asked, smiling at the child. "The children made it," Mora explained, eyes twinkling. They wish to crown their king. Naruto's smile faltered. I'm not a king. You protect us, the little girl said earnestly. You teach us. You make us strong. That's what kings do. Around them, the gathered villagers nodded in agreement. Someone started chanting, the Sorcerer King, and others quickly joined in. Sorcerer King. Sorcerer King. Sorcerer King. Naruto looked desperately at Mereoleona, who merely raised an eyebrow, amusement playing at her lips. Don't look at me, she said. You've earned their loyalty. I didn't ask for this, he protested. True leaders rarely do, Mora replied, taking the crown from the girl and holding it out to Naruto. It matters not what you call yourself. To us, you are our king, crown or no crown. Naruto stared at the simple wooden circlet. It was nothing like the Hokage hat he'd dreamed of all his life, yet somehow it represented the same thing, the trust and faith of people who believed in him. Slowly, he took the crown and placed it on his head to thunderous cheers. I'm not staying forever, he warned Mora quietly. I need to find a way home. Perhaps, the old woman replied with a knowing smile. But until then, our Sorcerer King you shall be. Later that night, as celebrations continued around fire pits throughout the village, Naruto found Mereoleona standing alone at the edge of the settlement, gazing toward the distant castle of the Clover Kingdom. Leaving already? He asked, joining her. I must report what I've discovered about Diamond Kingdom's experiments, she replied. And about you? Naruto tensed. And what will you say? Mereoleona turned to face him fully, the firelight casting dramatic shadows across her features. That I encountered a strange magic user with no grimoire who built a functioning society of non-magical outcasts and defeated Diamond Kingdom forces. Will that cause problems for Uzushio? Possibly, she admitted. But I'll also mention that attacking your settlement would be inadvisable. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Is that right? I've seen enough to know you're holding back, she said bluntly. Whatever power you possess, you've shown only a fraction of it. She wasn't wrong. Naruto had been careful not to reveal his full capabilities, particularly his tailed beast mode or six paths powers. I just want these people to live in peace, he said honestly. Mereoleona studied him for a long moment, her intense eyes searching his. You're an interesting man, Naruto Uzumaki. A king without a crown, even while wearing one. And you're one hell of a fighter, Mereoleona Vermilion. The ghost of a smile touched her lips. Next time we meet, I expect a proper battle, no interruptions. Looking forward to it, Naruto grinned. As she turned to leave, summoning flames around her feet to propel her forward, she called over her shoulder, take care of your kingdom, Sorcerer King. You've made powerful enemies today. Naruto watched her fiery form disappear into the night, crown sitting awkwardly on his spiky blonde hair, the weight of his new responsibilities settling on his shoulders. Kurama, he whispered, I think we're in for a wild ride. Indeed, Kit. But at least the company is interesting. From the shadows of the forest, unseen by either Naruto or Mereoleona, a pair of glowing red eyes watched with malevolent interest. The devil Lucifero smiled, sensing opportunity in the strange energy the newcomer brought to this world. A sorcerer king from another realm, he whispered to himself. How providential. Chapter 2, Flames of War and Heart. 3 months flew by like leaves caught in a whirlwind. Uzushio wasn't just a village anymore, it had transformed into something nobody, especially Naruto, had expected. Stone buildings replaced wooden structures. Farms flourished in cleared fields. Merchants from smaller communities risked royal disapproval to trade with the growing settlement. And people kept coming, those without magic, those with strange or defective abilities, and even some with conventional magic who simply preferred Uzushio's meritocracy to the rigid hierarchy of the Clover Kingdom. Naruto stood on the newly constructed watchtower, surveying what people had started calling his kingdom. The morning sun painted everything gold, reminding him of Konoha at dawn. The pang of homesickness hit hard, as it often did during quiet moments. "Something wrong, boss?" a shadow clone asked, appearing beside him with a stack of reports. "Just thinking about home," Naruto replied, taking the papers. "Any luck with that crystal from the dungeon?" The clone shook its head. "Still can't activate it. Whatever happened when you and the Fire Lady fought, we can't recreate it." Naruto had kept dozens of clones researching the crystal they'd recovered, hoping it might provide a way back to the elemental nations. So far, nothing. "Keep trying," he said, dismissing the clone with a wave. Below, Uzushio buzzed with activity. Children trained in the central square, practicing the chakra-like exercises Naruto had developed to help even the magicless harness their inner energy. It wasn't exactly chakra as he understood it, but by combining physical and spiritual energy in specific ways, almost anyone could perform basic techniques, strengthening their bodies, sharpening their senses, even walking on walls with enough practice. "Your Majesty," called Jiren, still insisting on the formal title despite Naruto's protests. "The council awaits your presence." Naruto jumped down, landing lightly beside the older man. "Stop calling me that. Just Naruto is fine." "As you wish, Your Majesty," Jiren replied with a barely suppressed smile. The council chamber occupied the first floor of Uzushio's central building, what would have been called the Hokage Tower back home. Representatives from each district sat around a circular table, with no seat higher than another. Equality in all things was Uzushio's founding principle. "Morning, everyone," Naruto greeted, dropping into his chair. "What's up?" Mora, now serving as his chief advisor, slid a map across the table. "Diamond Kingdom troop movements. Our scouts report increased activity along the western border." "They're still sore about getting their asses kicked," said Kaul, a burly former blacksmith who headed defense training. "It's more than that," argued Tavin, their intelligence coordinator and one of the few with functional magic who'd defected from the Clover Kingdom. "Our sources indicate they're conducting more experiments, specifically trying to recreate Naruto's abilities." Naruto frowned, studying the map markers. "Any sign of Morris?" "None," Tavin replied. After his capture during the attack, he was supposedly imprisoned by the Clover Kingdom. But rumors suggest he escaped and returned to Diamond. "Great," Naruto muttered. "Just what we need." "There's more," Mora said, her weathered face grave. "The Clover Kingdom has finally acknowledged our existence, officially." She produced a scroll bearing the royal seal, a golden clover on green wax. "A diplomatic envoy will arrive today to assess our legitimacy and threat potential." Their words, not mine. Naruto's eyebrows shot up. "Today? Thanks for the advance notice." "The messenger arrived an hour ago," Jiren explained. Apparently, the Magic Parliament debated for weeks before deciding to send representatives. "Any idea who they're sending?" Naruto asked, already suspecting the answer. Tavin nodded. "Captain Mereoleona Vermilion will lead the delegation, accompanied by representatives from the Magic Knights and Magic Parliament." A smile tugged at Naruto's lips. He'd wondered when the fiery captain would return. Their brief encounter had left a strong impression, her fearlessness, her raw power, her unwillingness to back down even against his abilities. In another life, they might have been good friends, or worthy rivals. "Prepare appropriate accommodations," he instructed. "Let's show the Clover Kingdom that the magicless outcasts know how to be proper hosts." Naruto waited at Uzushio's main gate as the delegation approached. Even from a distance, Mereoleona's wild crimson mane was unmistakable at the front of the group. She rode a magnificent beast that resembled a lion but with a flame-colored mane, while the others followed on more conventional magical mounts. Behind him, an honor guard of Uzushio's best fighters stood at attention. None wore uniforms. Naruto had rejected anything that reminded him of military ranks, but all carried the spiral emblem of Uzushio on armbands or headbands. As the delegation drew near, Naruto stepped forward alone. Captain Vermilion, he greeted with a slight bow. Welcome to Uzushio. Mereoleona dismounted with predatory grace, her intense eyes scanning the settlement before settling on Naruto. Sorcerer King, she replied, a hint of amusement in her voice. Your little village has grown. Just Naruto is fine. And yet you wear a crown, she observed, nodding toward the simple circlet resting on his head, no longer wood and flowers but a band of burnished bronze inlaid with spiral patterns. The people insisted, Naruto shrugged. Seemed rude to refuse. Something like approval flashed in Mereoleona's eyes before she turned to introduce her companions. Marx Francois, advisor to the Wizard King, she indicated a thin man with unusual hair that curled upward. And Lord Kira Clive, representative of the Magic Parliament and cousin to King Augustus. The nobleman was everything Naruto disliked, pompous, overdressed, with a perpetual expression suggesting he smelled something unpleasant. He barely acknowledged Naruto's greeting. Let's dispense with pleasantries, Lord Clive sniffed. We're here to determine whether this gathering constitutes an illegal settlement or a genuine threat to the Clover Kingdom. Naruto maintained his smile, but his eyes hardened. You'll find we're neither illegal nor threatening, unless threatened first. A qualification that proves my point, Clive replied coldly. Perhaps we could continue this discussion inside, Marx suggested diplomatically. After our journey, refreshments would be welcome. Naruto led them through Uzushio, knowing the tour would speak louder than any defense he could offer. Children played freely in safe areas. Farmers tended flourishing crops using innovative irrigation systems designed by former nobles who'd abandoned their titles for freedom. Craftspeople worked with both traditional methods and magical enhancements developed by Uzushio's research teams. Your economy seems remarkably sustainable, Marx noted, genuine interest in his voice. When people work because they want to contribute, not because they're forced to by status or circumstance, productivity soars, Naruto explained. Charming philosophy, Lord Clive said dismissively. But the fact remains you've established an independent settlement on Clover Kingdom territory without royal sanction. Territory the kingdom abandoned, Mereoleona pointed out unexpectedly. The Forsaken region has received no royal resources or protection for generations. Clive shot her a disapproving look. Captain Vermilion, need I remind you of your purpose here? To provide an accurate assessment, she replied, unintimidated. I'm simply stating facts. They reached the central building, where a reception had been prepared in the Great Hall. As guests and hosts mingled, Naruto found himself momentarily alone with Mereoleona near a refreshment table. So, he said quietly, is this a real diplomatic mission, or just reconnaissance before the kingdom decides to shut us down? Mereoleona took a long drink from her goblet before answering. Both. The Magic Parliament is divided. Some see Uzushio as a threat to the established order, others as a useful buffer against Diamond Kingdom. And the Wizard King? Julius is curious about you, she admitted. Your abilities fascinate him academically. But he's also concerned about what your presence means for the balance of power. And what about you? Naruto asked, meeting her fierce gaze directly. What does the great Mereoleona Vermilion think? For a moment, something unguarded flashed across her face, respect, perhaps, or even admiration. Then her usual challenging expression returned. I think you're either a foolish dreamer or exactly what this kingdom needs, she replied cryptically. I haven't decided which. Before Naruto could respond, Lord Clive's voice rang out above the crowd. I've seen enough. This settlement directly undermines the authority of King Augustus and the magic-based meritocracy upon which our society is founded. The hall fell silent. Naruto stepped forward, leaving Mereoleona's side with reluctance. Lord Clive, we seek peaceful coexistence, not confrontation. By creating a haven for the magicless and rejecting royal authority? Clive scoffed. Your very existence is confrontation, Sorcerer King. The people here were abandoned by your kingdom, Naruto replied, keeping his voice level despite growing irritation. We built something from nothing, harming no one. You harbor fugitives, criminals, and those whose magical abilities rightfully belong to the kingdom's research, Clive countered. Naruto's patience snapped. People don't belong to anyone. Their abilities are their own, not resources for your kingdom to harvest. The temperature in the room suddenly spiked as Mereoleona stepped between them, flames flickering around her shoulders. Enough, she growled. This mission is for assessment, not accusations. Lord Clive straightened his elaborate robes. I've made my assessment. This settlement poses a direct threat to the established order and must be disbanded, by force if necessary. That would be unwise, Naruto said quietly. Something in his tone made several guards reach for their weapons. The tension in the room thickened until Mark stepped forward, hands raised placatingly. Perhaps we should adjourn for today, he suggested. Such significant matters deserve careful consideration. After a tense moment, Clive nodded stiffly. Very well. But my recommendation to the Parliament will stand. As the delegation was shown to their accommodations, Naruto noticed Mereoleona hanging back, her expression troubled. Your noble friend seems determined to cause problems, he observed when they were alone. Clive represents the conservative faction that sees magic as the natural basis for hierarchy, she replied. Your settlement challenges everything they believe. And what do you believe? Mereoleona studied him for a long moment. I believe strength matters more than bloodlines or mana quantity. I've seen magicless commoners with more courage than royal knights. Then we're not so different, Naruto said with a slight smile. Perhaps not, she conceded. But I serve the Clover Kingdom, while you. She gestured around them. You've created something entirely new. Not by choice, he reminded her. I'm still trying to find a way home. Curiosity sparked in her eyes. Tell me about it, your home. The request surprised him. They walked together to a balcony overlooking the settlement as twilight descended, and Naruto found himself describing Konoha, the monument with the Hokage's faces, the academy where he'd struggled and eventually succeeded, the ramen shop where he'd found comfort as a lonely child. You miss it, Mereoleona observed, not a question but a statement. Every day, Naruto admitted. I have people there who need me. Friends who are probably tearing apart the elemental nations looking for me. Yet you've built something remarkable here, she noted, gesturing toward Uzushio spread below them. These people would follow you anywhere. They shouldn't, Naruto replied seriously. I won't be here forever. Mereoleona turned to face him fully, the dying sunlight catching in her wild crimson hair. Is that why you've trained leaders from among them? Prepared for your absence. Naruto blinked in surprise. You noticed that? I notice everything, she said with a predatory smile. Including the defensive formations, escape routes, and hidden stockpiles. You're preparing for war, not just governance. I prefer to call it being cautious, Naruto replied, impressed by her perception. Diamond Kingdom hasn't given up, and now it seems Clover might become a threat too. Mereoleona's expression turned serious. Clive doesn't speak for the entire kingdom. But he speaks for enough of it to matter, Naruto countered. I won't let these people become casualties of political power plays. Something shifted in Mereoleona's eyes, a flicker of what might have been respect or even admiration. Before she could respond, however, a small explosion rocked the building, followed by shouts of alarm. They both reacted instantly, rushing toward the source of the commotion. Smoke billowed from the guest quarters where the Clover delegation had been housed. Guards were already converging on the scene as Naruto and Mereoleona arrived. What happened? Naruto demanded. Explosion spell, a guard reported. Targeted Lord Clive's chamber. Mereoleona pushed past them, flames already dancing around her hands. Where is he? They found marks pulling Clive from the debris, both men covered in dust but apparently unharmed. Assassination attempt. Clive sputtered, pointing an accusing finger at Naruto. Your people tried to kill me. That's ridiculous, Naruto replied, creating shadow clones to search for the attacker. You're my guest. Your safety is my responsibility. A responsibility you failed. Clive shouted. This confirms everything, Uzushio is a threat that must be eliminated. Be silent, Mereoleona snapped, her attention focused on examining the blast pattern. This wasn't conventional explosion magic. Naruto knelt beside her, examining scorch marks with an experienced eye. Delayed trigger, remote activation. Someone wanted it to look like an assassination attempt. But who would benefit from, Marks began. A clone burst into the room. Boss. We found something outside the east wall. You need to see this. The dead man lay half hidden in bushes just beyond Uzushio's boundary. He wore nondescript clothing, but the diamond-shaped tattoo on his wrist told them everything they needed to know. Diamond Kingdom, Mereoleona growled. A spy. Assassin, Naruto corrected, pointing to the specialized equipment strapped to the man's body. And look at this. He carefully removed a small crystal device from the corpse's hand, similar to the triggering mechanism for the explosion. Remote detonator, he explained. But something went wrong. Looks like his own explosive spell backfired. Amateurish work, Mereoleona observed. Diamond Kingdom assassins are usually more competent. Unless they wanted to be discovered, Marks suggested thoughtfully. Creating tension between Uzushio and the Clover delegation would serve Diamond's interests. Lord Clive, who had insisted on accompanying them, snorted in disbelief. Convenient explanation. For all we know, you planted this evidence yourselves. Naruto's patience with the nobleman was wearing dangerously thin. Before he could respond, one of his intelligence officers approached at a run. Your Majesty. We've intercepted Diamond Kingdom communications. There's increased activity at their border outpost, they're mobilizing. Mobilizing for what? Marks asked. Naruto met Mereoleona's eyes, seeing his own conclusion reflected there. Invasion, they said simultaneously. Preposterous, Clive protested. Diamond wouldn't dare violate Clover territory so blatantly. They would if they believed the Clover Kingdom was distracted by internal conflict, Marks reasoned, his expression troubled. A failed assassination attempt against a noble during negotiations with a controversial settlement. Provides the perfect cover, Naruto finished grimly. We need to prepare. This could still be misdirection, Mereoleona cautioned. I should report to the Wizard King immediately. And I must return to the capital to inform the Magic Parliament, Clive insisted. Naruto shook his head. No one's going anywhere tonight. If Diamond forces are moving, the roads aren't safe. You dare detain representatives of the Clover Kingdom? Clive bristled. I dare protect my guests, Naruto countered. Including you, Lord Clive, despite your obvious contempt for Uzushio. Before the argument could escalate, a shadow clone appeared with urgent news. Boss. The crystal is reacting to something. The crystal from the ancient dungeon pulsed with multicolored light, floating inches above the table in Naruto's private study. Naruto, Mereoleona, Marks, and a reluctant Lord Clive gathered around it. It started right after the explosion, Naruto explained. Like it's responding to the magical disruption. Marks leaned closer, his analytical gaze fixed on the crystal. This is ancient magic. Similar artifacts have been discovered in dungeons throughout the continent, often connected to the elves. The what now? Naruto asked. An ancient race skilled in natural mana manipulation, Mereoleona explained. They were massacred centuries ago by humans who coveted their power. The crystal's pulsing intensified as she spoke, almost as if responding to her presence. Interesting, Marks murmured. Captain Vermilion, would you channel a small amount of your magic toward it? Mereoleona extended her hand, allowing a controlled flame to dance above her palm near the crystal. Immediately, the artifact's glow brightened, and strange symbols appeared on its surface. "Now you, Naruto," Marx suggested. Naruto channeled a small amount of chakra toward the crystal. The reaction was dramatic. The crystal shot into the air, spinning rapidly as it projected a three-dimensional map onto the surrounding walls. "What the hell?" Naruto gasped. "A mana map," Marx explained, excitement overriding his usual composure. "It's showing ley lines, natural mana currents flowing through the continent." The glowing blue lines crisscrossed the projected landscape, converging at several points. One such convergence point pulsed directly beneath Uzushio. "That's why Diamond wants this location," Mereoleona realized. "It's a mana nexus. And why your settlement has flourished despite lacking conventional magic users," Marx added. "The abundant natural mana supports your alternative energy manipulation techniques." Lord Clive's expression shifted from skepticism to calculation. "Such a nexus rightfully belongs under Clover Kingdom control. The strategic value alone, it belongs to no one," Naruto interrupted firmly. "The people of Uzushio are its stewards, not its owners." The map suddenly shifted, zooming outward to reveal something more alarming, a massive disruption in the ley lines to the west, where Diamond Kingdom lay. The blue streams were being diverted, channeled toward a central location pulsing with sickly green light. "What are they doing?" Marx whispered, horror in his voice. "Harvesting," Mereoleona growled. "Draining natural mana on an industrial scale." "For what purpose?" Clive demanded. The crystal provided its own answer, projecting a new image, a massive magical weapon under construction, resembling a cannon large enough to level a city. "They're building a weapon to target Uzushio," Naruto realized. "Using the stolen mana as ammunition." "Not just Uzushio," Marx corrected grimly. "A weapon of that scale could threaten the Clover Kingdom capital as well." Lord Clive's face paled. "This changes everything. The Parliament must be informed immediately." "First, we need to stop that weapon," Mereoleona declared, flames already dancing around her shoulders. "A direct strike at the source would fail," Naruto interrupted. "Look at the defenses." The map showed multiple layers of magical barriers surrounding the weapon site. "We need more information," he continued. "Where are they getting the technology? Who's leading the project?" As if responding to his questions, the crystal projected a final image, a familiar face overlooking the weapon construction. "Morris," Naruto and Mereoleona said in unison. "He escaped Clover custody 2 months ago," Marx confirmed. "We suspected Diamond had retrieved him, but had no proof until now." Lord Clive straightened his robes with newfound purpose. "I must return to the capital immediately. The kingdom must prepare for war." "War would play right into their hands," Naruto argued. "They want us fighting each other while they complete their weapon." "What do you propose instead, Sorcerer King?" Clive challenged. For once, the title didn't irritate Naruto. He studied the projected map thoughtfully. "A joint operation," he finally said. "Uzushio and Clover Kingdom forces working together to infiltrate the facility and sabotage the weapon before it's operational." "Impossible," Clive scoffed. "The Magic Parliament would never authorize cooperation with." "I'll do it," Mereoleona interrupted. Everyone turned to her in surprise. "Captain Vermilion." Clive protested. "You cannot make such decisions without authorization." "As captain of the Crimson Lion Kings and royal blood myself, I have authority to respond to imminent threats," she replied coolly. "This weapon threatens both Clover Kingdom and Uzushio. Logic dictates cooperation." "I'll assist as well," Marx offered. "My memory magic could be valuable for intelligence gathering." Lord Clive looked between them, clearly calculating his political position. Finally, he sighed in resignation. "Very well. I'll return to report to the Parliament, but I won't oppose this temporary alliance." The crystal suddenly dimmed, its projections fading as it settled back onto the table. It seems our course is set, Marx observed. Naruto nodded, already mentally planning the operation. We leave tomorrow at dawn. Small team, fast movement. As they departed to make preparations, Mereoleona lingered behind. Your settlement has become more important than you realize, she said quietly. A mana nexus, unique energy manipulation techniques, and now this crystal. The kingdoms won't simply leave you in peace. I know, Naruto replied. But one crisis at a time. Mereoleona studied him with those intense eyes that seemed to see right through him. You're not what I expected, she admitted. When we first met, I thought you were just another self-proclaimed leader with unusual magic. And now? A rare smile curved her lips. Now I think you might actually deserve that crown, Naruto Uzumaki. Coming from Mereoleona, that was high praise indeed. Dawn found them at Uzushio's western gate, Naruto, Mereoleona, Marx, and two of Naruto's most trusted captains, Call and Tavin. Lord Clive had departed for the capital under heavy guard, carrying messages for both the Magic Parliament and the Wizard King. The route I've mapped should keep us undetected until we reach the border, Tavin explained, pointing to the rough map he'd drawn. As a former magic knight with wind magic, his scouting abilities were unmatched in Uzushio. Once we cross into diamond territory, stealth becomes more difficult, Mereoleona noted. Their sensor mages will detect my mana signature. Not if I cloak us. Naruto countered. My anti-magic properties can mask magical signatures over a small area. Marx looked skeptical. For how long? The strain of maintaining such an effect is negligible for me, Naruto finished. Where I come from, I'm known for having ridiculously large chakra reserves. It's true, Call confirmed. I've seen him create thousands of clones and maintain them for days. Mereoleona's eyes gleamed with interest. Thousands? Naruto shrugged modestly. My personal record is around 5,000, but that was during a war. Impressive, she admitted. But why not use that ability now? Send an army of clones to infiltrate the facility. 2 reasons, Naruto explained. First, while each clone has my abilities, they have only a fraction of my chakra. Against high-level magic users, they'd be overwhelmed. Second, anything the clones learn, I learn when they disperse. Better to use them for reconnaissance than direct confrontation. As if to demonstrate, he created 5 shadow clones, each hinging into a nondescript traveler. They'll scout ahead, establish our route, and disperse if they encounter trouble. Mereoleona nodded approvingly. Efficient. With final preparations complete, they set out, Naruto creating a small anti-magic field around their group that made them virtually undetectable to magical sensors. Their journey took them through dense forests and across rocky terrain deliberately chosen to avoid populated areas. Naruto's clones periodically reported back, allowing them to sidestep Diamond Kingdom patrols. By nightfall, they had reached the border, a simple stone marker rather than any formal barrier. We'll camp here, Naruto decided. Cross at first light when the guard shifts. As the others prepared a small, concealed campsite, Mereoleona joined Naruto on a rocky outcropping overlooking Diamond Kingdom territory. You've done this before, she observed. Infiltration missions. Naruto nodded. Many times. Before I became, whatever I am now. I was a ninja. Stealth operations were standard training. Ninja, she repeated thoughtfully. We have similar operatives, the Black Bulls often handle covert missions. But they rely on magic, not physical discipline. Where I come from, chakra and physical training are inseparable, Naruto explained. The strongest ninja master both. Like your shadow clones, she noted. Physical copies empowered by your energy. Exactly. They fell into comfortable silence, watching the stars emerge above. Naruto found himself studying Mereoleona's profile, the proud line of her jaw, the wildness of her hair catching the moonlight, the intensity that seemed to radiate from her even in repose. "Your people love you," she said suddenly. "Not just follow you, they genuinely love their Sorcerer King." Naruto looked away, embarrassed. "I just treat them like people, not statistics or tools." "That alone makes you different from most rulers," she replied. "The Clover King sees citizens as extensions of his own glory. The Diamond King views them as resources to be harvested for magical potential." "And what about the Wizard King?" "Julius, right? What kind of leader is he?" Mereoleona's expression softened slightly. "Julius is unique. Brilliant, powerful, but driven by curiosity more than ambition. He protects the kingdom because he loves magic in all its forms and the people who wield it." "He sounds like someone I'd like," Naruto mused. "You would," she agreed. "And he would be fascinated by you." She turned to face him directly, moonlight illuminating her features. "Which is why I'm conflicted about this mission." "How so?" "If we succeed, you'll have proven your value as an ally to the Clover Kingdom. The Magic Parliament will seek formal ties with Uzushio." "Isn't that a good thing?" Naruto asked. Mereoleona's eyes never left his. "They'll want access to your knowledge, your techniques for teaching non-magic users to harness energy. They'll want you." The intensity of her gaze made something shift in Naruto's chest. "And that concerns you because?" "Because they'll try to control what should remain free," she replied simply. Coming from a captain of the Magic Knights, essentially the military arm of the kingdom, her words surprised him. "I wouldn't have expected that perspective from you," he admitted. A fierce smile curved her lips. "I serve the kingdom, but I respect strength wherever I find it. What you've built in Uzushio deserves to determine its own fate." Naruto studied her, seeing beyond the legendary, uncrowned undefeated lioness, to the woman beneath, principled, powerful, and unexpectedly contemplative. "Thank you," he said quietly. Something electric passed between them, a moment of perfect understanding that needed no further words. The moment was broken by Marks calling them to eat before taking watch rotations. As they returned to camp, Naruto found himself looking at Mereoleona in a new light. She wasn't just a fearsome warrior or valuable ally, she was becoming something more, something he hadn't anticipated when he first arrived in this world. They crossed into Diamond Kingdom territory at dawn, moving swiftly through sparse woodlands toward their target. According to the crystal's projections, the weapon facility lay hidden in a canyon system 3 hours' journey from the border. "Security increases from here," Tavin warned as they reached the edge of a more developed area. "Magical sensor arrays every quarter mile." Naruto strengthened his anti-magic field, feeling the drain as it expanded to cover their group. "We'll need to move faster. I can't maintain this indefinitely while moving." "Allow me," Mereoleona said. Without warning, she scooped Naruto into a princess carry, flames erupting around her feet. "Hold on to your crown, Sorcerer King." Before he could protest the undignified position, she launched skyward, propelled by her flame magic. The others followed, Marks using his own flying spell, while Call and Tavin were carried by Naruto's hastily summoned shadow clones. They soared above the sensor grid, Naruto's anti-magic field preventing detection from below. Despite the tactical necessity, Naruto couldn't help feeling acutely aware of Mereoleona's arms around him, her wild mane whipping past his face as they flew. "Enjoying the view?" she asked with a knowing smirk, catching him staring. "Just making sure your flames don't set my clothes on fire," he replied, grateful his tan skin hid his blush. Her laugh was like the crackling of a bonfire. "You can negate magic with a touch, remember? I doubt you're in any danger." The canyon appeared ahead, a jagged wound in the earth partially concealed by an artificial mist. They descended into the cover of rocks at its edge, regrouping to plan their approach. "The facility should be near the center," Mark said, consulting the rough map they'd created based on the crystal's projection. "Likely underground, using the canyon walls as natural shielding." Naruto created a dozen shadow clones, transforming them into small animals, birds, lizards, even insects. Scout every inch. Find entrances, guard rotations, anything useful. As the transformed clones dispersed, Mereoleona gave him an approving nod. Versatile technique. One of my favorites, Naruto admitted. Saved my life more times than I can count. They waited in tense silence until the clones began returning, each dispelling to transfer its gathered intelligence directly to Naruto. With each dispersion, his expression grew darker. It's worse than we thought, he finally said. The facility is massive, at least 5 underground levels. Heavy security, magical barriers, hundreds of researchers and guards. And the weapon? Marks pressed. Nearly complete. They're channeling the harvested mana into some kind of amplification array. Naruto closed his eyes, processing the memories from his clones. And they're using people as living conduits. What? Call growled. Test subjects, Naruto clarified grimly. People with rare magical attributes being forced to channel and refine the harvested mana. It's killing them, but they've got dozens more waiting. Mereoleona's expression turned murderous, flames instinctively dancing along her shoulders. Unforgivable. There's more, Naruto continued. I saw Morris. He's not just building a weapon, he's experimenting with combining different magical attributes in single subjects. Forcing incompatible magics to coexist in one body. Like your ability to both generate and negate magical energy, Marks observed quietly. Exactly, Naruto confirmed. He's trying to recreate what I can do naturally. Tavin leaned forward. What's our plan? We're drastically outnumbered. Naruto considered their options. We need to accomplish 3 things: destroy the weapon, free the test subjects, and capture Morris for interrogation. Ambitious, Mereoleona noted, but her tone suggested approval rather than criticism. We'll split into teams, Naruto continued. Mereoleona and I will target Morris and the weapon. Marks, Call, and Tavin will locate and extract the prisoners. How do we get inside? Call asked. Naruto grinned. The direct approach. Alarms blared throughout the facility as explosions rocked the main entrance. Guards rushed to defend against what appeared to be a frontal assault by dozens of attackers, all Naruto's shadow clones using transformation techniques to appear as a diverse invasion force. Intruders at the main gate. All security personnel respond, loudspeakers commanded. Meanwhile, Naruto and Mereoleona infiltrated through a ventilation shaft his clones had identified on the eastern side, designed to release excess mana during experiments. The shaft led them directly to the lower levels where the weapon was housed. They emerged into a cavernous chamber dominated by an enormous magical cannon. Crystalline arrays surrounded it, channeling glowing streams of pure mana into its core. The air itself felt heavy, saturated with magical energy. There, Naruto whispered, pointing to a control platform where Morris stood surrounded by researchers. Central control. Mereoleona nodded, flames already dancing along her arms. Distraction. Big one, Naruto confirmed, forming a Rasengan infused with wind chakra. Now. Fire magic, Calidus Brachium Barrage. Mereoleona unleashed a flurry of flame-covered punches toward the ceiling, creating a spectacular light show that drew every eye in the chamber. Simultaneously, Naruto hurled his Rasen Shuriken at the mana conduits feeding the weapon. The wind-enhanced chakra sphere sliced through the crystalline structures before exploding in a dome of cutting energy. Chaos erupted instantly. Alarms screamed, researchers scattered, and guards rushed toward them with grimoires at the ready. Intruders in the weapon chamber. Maximum response. Authorized. Morris remained calm amidst the panic, adjusting his glasses as he studied the intruders. Recognition dawned on his face. The anti-mage and the lioness, he remarked, sounding almost pleased. How fortuitous. 2 exceptional specimens delivering themselves to my laboratory. The only thing we're delivering is justice, Naruto shouted, creating more shadow clones to engage the guards. Mereoleona launched herself toward Morris, flames propelling her across the chamber. Fire magic, Mereoleona's scorch fist. Morris didn't even try to dodge. Instead, he tapped a sequence into his control panel. A magical barrier sprang up, but not to block Mereoleona's attack, to redirect it back at her with amplified force. Mereoleona! Naruto shouted in warning. She twisted mid-air, barely avoiding her own reflected flames. Morris used the opportunity to activate something else. The weapon itself began to hum, drawing even more mana from the surrounding arrays. "You've arrived just in time to witness the first test firing," Morris announced calmly. Though the primary target was to be Uzushio, the Clover Capital will serve as an adequate demonstration. Not happening. Naruto growled, forming multiple Razengans between his clones. They charged from different directions, aiming for the weapon support structures. Morris gestured casually, and hidden defensive arrays activated. Dozens of magical traps sprung to life, targeting the clones with precision. Most dispelled on impact, but a few reached their targets, damaging peripheral systems. Meanwhile, Mereoleona engaged the facility's elite guards, Diamond Kingdom's enhanced warriors with multiple magical attributes artificially grafted into their bodies. Flame magic, Calidus Brachium Purgatory. Her entire body erupted in flames as she moved with devastating speed and power, overwhelming opponents through sheer martial superiority. Naruto fought his way toward the central platform, using his anti-magic abilities to negate defensive spells. When he finally reached Morris, the scientist merely smiled. "I've been studying you," Morris said conversationally, as if they weren't in the middle of battle. "Your unique energy, neither mana nor quite the devil's power. Something entirely different." "Shut up and surrender," Naruto demanded, a Rasengan spinning in his palm. "Your abilities would advance my research by decades," Morris continued, unperturbed. "The perfect fusion of creation and negation in one vessel." "I said shut up." Naruto lunged forward, only for his Rasengan to pass through Morris's body harmlessly. "Thought projection," Morris explained, his image flickering slightly. "I'm monitoring from a secure location." "Did you really think I'd expose myself directly?" The weapon's humming intensified, the cannon barrel aligning toward distant coordinates. "Primary target, Clover Kingdom Capital. Mana charge at 60% and rising," an automated voice announced. "We need to destroy the power source." Mereoleona called, finishing off the last enhanced guard with a devastating flame punch. Naruto scanned the chamber, locating the massive mana batteries feeding the weapon. There. Behind those barriers. The batteries were protected by layered magical shields, each designed to counter specific magical attributes. A conventional attack would be useless. "Can you break through?" Mereoleona asked, joining him. "Not alone," Naruto admitted. "They're designed to adapt to magical signatures. If I negate one layer, the next reconfigures." Mereoleona considered the problem for a split second. "Then we combine." "Your negation, my flame." "What?" "Trust me," she said, grabbing his hand. The contact sent a jolt through Naruto that had nothing to do with magic. Mereoleona channeled her flames into their joined hands, while Naruto allowed his anti-magic properties to mix with her fire. The result was something entirely new, flames that didn't burn with heat but consumed magic itself, flickering with both gold and crimson light. "Now!" Mereoleona shouted. They thrust their joined hands toward the barriers, releasing the combined energy. The unique flames devoured the magical shields layer by layer, unraveling complex spells as if they were tissue paper. "Impossible," Morris's projection gasped, genuine surprise breaking through his composure. Such perfect synchronization between opposing magical principles. With the barriers down, Mereoleona unleashed her most powerful attack directly into the mana batteries. Fire magic, Calidus Brachium Calendula Eruption. The resulting explosion rocked the entire facility. Warning signals blared as systems failed catastrophically. Mana containment failing. Critical overload imminent. Evacuate immediately, the automated voice announced, now tinged with urgency. Morris's projection flickered more severely. "You've destroyed years of research," he said, sounding more intrigued than angry. "But the data gathered today is almost worth the setback." Almost. His image vanished as tremors intensified throughout the chamber. "We need to find the others and get out," Naruto said, creating fresh clones to search for their companions. "Mana charge destabilizing," the system warned. "Catastrophic detonation in 5 minutes." Marks, Kahl, and Tavin had successfully located the prisoner section, freeing dozens of test subjects from magical restraints. When Naruto and Mereoleona found them, they were guiding the weakened captives toward emergency exits. "The facility's going to blow," Naruto warned. "How many more remain?" "These are all we could find," Marks replied grimly. "Many were too far gone to save." Mereoleona surveyed the injured prisoners. "They can't move quickly enough. We'll never clear the blast radius." Naruto closed his eyes, communicating with Kurama. "I need your chakra, partner. A lot of it. Taking everyone out at once will strain even my chakra, Kit. But let's do it." Golden energy engulfed Naruto, transforming into his Ninetales chakra mode. The prisoners gasped as the bright aura illuminated the darkened corridors. "What is this power?" Mereoleona whispered, eyes wide with genuine amazement for perhaps the first time since Naruto had met her. "Something I try not to show off," Naruto replied, extending his chakra arms to gather everyone close. "Hang on tight. This might feel strange." He created a massive chakra construct around the entire group, a skeletal form of Kurama that encased them in protective energy. "Detonation in 1 minute," the system reminded them helpfully. "Everyone ready?" Naruto asked. Without waiting for an answer, he charged forward, the chakra construct smashing through walls and ceilings as they raced toward the surface. They burst from the facility just as the countdown reached 0. The ground beneath them heaved as the mana containment systems failed completely, releasing the equivalent of a magical nuclear explosion. The shockwave caught them despite their head start, sending Naruto's chakra construct tumbling across the canyon floor. When the dust settled, Naruto's glowing form stood protectively over the others, chakra arms extended to absorb the brunt of the blast. Slowly, he released the construct, helping injured prisoners to their feet. "Is everyone okay?" he asked, golden chakra fading as he returned to normal. Mereoleona stared at him with an unreadable expression. "That power, it wasn't magic." "No," Naruto admitted. "It's something else. Something from my world." Before she could question him further, Marks interrupted. "Diamond Kingdom reinforcements will be here soon. We need to move." They gathered the rescued prisoners, about 30 in total, and began the difficult journey back toward the border. Many were too weak to walk, requiring Naruto's clones to carry them. "The weapon is destroyed, but Morris escaped," Naruto told the others as they traveled. "And he's learned too much about my abilities." "A problem for another day," Mereoleona replied pragmatically. "For now, we've dealt Diamond Kingdom a significant blow." They crossed back into Clover territory by nightfall, making camp in a defensible position. As the rescued prisoners rested, attended by Marks and the others, Naruto found himself drawn to a nearby stream. The events of the day, particularly that moment of connection with Mereoleona, had left him with much to process. He sat on a rock overlooking the water, listening to its gentle flow. So much had happened since he arrived in this world. Sometimes he almost forgot that his real life waited elsewhere, that Konoha and his precious people were still out there somewhere. "Your power," Mereoleona's voice came from behind him. It felt ancient. Primal. Naruto didn't turn. "It is. Kurama, the source of that power, has existed for centuries. She sat beside him on the rock, close enough that he could feel the natural heat that seemed to radiate from her body. When we combined our abilities, she said quietly, it felt right. Like two parts of something meant to work together. Naruto nodded. I've experienced fusion techniques before, but nothing quite like that. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Mereoleona spoke again. The Magic Parliament will want answers about what happened today. About what you are. And what will you tell them? Naruto asked, finally turning to meet her gaze. Moonlight caught in her wild crimson hair, softening her usually fierce expression. For a moment, she looked almost vulnerable. The truth, she replied. That you're a powerful ally who helped prevent a catastrophe. That Uzushio deserves recognition and protection, not suspicion and hostility. And the rest? Naruto pressed. About what I am. Mereoleona's eyes never left his. That's yours to share or keep. Not mine to report. The simple respect in that statement moved something in Naruto's chest. Thank you, he said quietly. Don't thank me yet, she warned. Diamond Kingdom won't forget this defeat. And Morris is obsessed with your abilities now. This battle may have ended, but the war is just beginning. War, Naruto sighed. I've seen enough of it to last several lifetimes. As have I, Mereoleona admitted. But sometimes it finds you regardless. Impulsively, Naruto reached out and took her hand. Then we face it together. She didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers tightened around his, warm and strong. Together, she agreed. Their return to Uzushio 3 days later was met with celebration and relief. The rescued prisoners were immediately taken to healing centers, while reports of the facility's destruction spread throughout the settlement. You've made history, Mora told Naruto as they watched the integration of the new arrivals. The first successful joint operation between Uzushio and the Clover Kingdom. Let's hope it's not the last, Naruto replied, glancing at Mereoleona who stood nearby with Marks, preparing for their return to the capital. Word had already arrived from the Magic Parliament. Lord Clive's report had been received, along with Marks's preliminary communications. The Parliament had voted to establish formal diplomatic relations with Uzushio, recognizing it as an autonomous region under Clover Kingdom protection. Not quite independence, Jiren had noted when the message arrived, but better than being considered outlaws. Now, as Mereoleona and Marks prepared to leave, Naruto approached them at the gates. The official treaty delegation will arrive within the week, Marks informed him. The terms are generally favorable, recognition of Uzushio's autonomy in exchange for military cooperation against mutual threats. Sounds reasonable, Naruto replied, though his attention was more on Mereoleona than the diplomatic details. Marks tactfully excused himself to check their mounts, leaving them alone. So, Naruto began awkwardly. So, Mereoleona echoed, a hint of amusement in her eyes. Will you be returning with the treaty delegation? No, she replied. I've been assigned to the northern border. Diamond isn't our only potential enemy. Disappointment washed through Naruto, stronger than he'd expected. I see. Mereoleona studied him for a moment. You've changed since we first met, Sorcerer King. How so? You've embraced your role here. You're no longer just waiting to return home, you're building something meaningful. Naruto couldn't deny it. These people depend on me. It's more than that, she insisted. You found purpose here. Perhaps even belonging. Had he? Naruto considered the possibility. Uzushio had indeed become more than just a temporary responsibility, it had become something he was proud of, something worth protecting. Maybe you're right, he admitted. But my friends in Konoha would be proud of what you've accomplished, Mereoleona finished for him. If they're truly your friends. Before Naruto could respond, horns sounded from the watchtowers, the alarm signal for approaching forces. He turned toward the gates, instantly alert. Eastern approach, a guard shouted. Diamond Kingdom banners. Impossible, Marks gasped, rushing to join them. They wouldn't dare attack so soon after such a defeat. Naruto and Mereoleona exchanged glances. Morris, they said simultaneously. They raced to the eastern wall, where guards had already spotted the approaching army, 1,000 strong, marching under Diamond Kingdom's banner. How did they mobilize so quickly? Marks wondered. They didn't, Mereoleona replied grimly. This force was already prepared. The facility was just one part of their plan. Scouts reported back within minutes, confirming their worst fears. Diamond Kingdom had launched a full-scale invasion, with forces crossing the border at multiple points. Some headed toward Uzushio, others toward Clover Kingdom proper. It's a coordinated offensive, Marks realized. They're exploiting the uncertainty following our joint operation. The Clover Kingdom will respond, Mereoleona declared, flames already dancing around her shoulders. I must return immediately to lead my squad. You'd never reach them in time, Naruto countered. The diamond forces are between us and the capital. Mark stared at the horizon, where dust clouds marked the approaching army. Captain Vermilion, our duty is to the kingdom. Mereoleona's expression hardened as she faced an impossible choice, her duty to her kingdom or the immediate threat to Uzushio. For a tense moment, she stood paralyzed between obligations. Naruto placed a hand on her shoulder. Go, he said quietly. Uzushio can defend itself. She turned to him, conflict clear in her eyes. You're outnumbered at least 10-1. Wouldn't be the first time, Naruto grinned, trying to project more confidence than he felt. Besides, I have a few tricks I haven't shown yet. Mereoleona glanced between him and the approaching army. Then, to everyone's surprise, she made her decision. Marks, she commanded, return to the capital immediately. Inform the Wizard King and the Magic Parliament that I have elected to remain in Uzushio to coordinate our defensive position. Captain. Marks protested. Your squad will function under my vice-captain's leadership, she interrupted. Strategically, holding Uzushio is essential to protecting the kingdom's eastern flank. I'm making a tactical decision. Her tone brooked no argument. After a moment of hesitation, Marks nodded. As you command, Captain. May the spirits watch over you all. As Marks departed on a wind-enhanced mount, Mereoleona turned to Naruto. Well, Sorcerer King, it seems your settlement is about to face its greatest test. Naruto stared at her in amazement. You're staying. Against orders. A fierce grin spread across her face. Who said it was against orders? I simply interpreted them, creatively. Naruto couldn't help but laugh, despite the dire situation. Remind me never to play shogi with you. I don't play games, she replied, her eyes dancing with battle-light. I win them. Turning to the gathered defenders, Mereoleona raised her voice. People of Uzushio. Diamond Kingdom believes you weak because many of you lack conventional magic. Today, we prove them wrong. A cheer went up from the walls, defenders raising weapons and fists in defiance. Naruto stepped forward to stand beside her. Prepare all defenses. Evacuation teams, get the children and elderly to the shelter caves. Everyone else to their assigned positions. As the settlement mobilized with practiced efficiency, the result of months of drills and preparation, Naruto and Mereoleona moved to the command center to plan their defense. They'll expect us to hole up behind the walls, Mereoleona observed, studying the maps. Conventional siege tactics. Then will be unconventional, Naruto replied. Hit them before they're ready, disrupt their formation, force them to adapt to our pace instead of setting their own. Mereoleona's eyes lit up. A preemptive strike. Bold. Risky. My specialty, Naruto grinned. Together, they formulated a plan that played to their unique strengths, Naruto's shadow clones and anti-magic abilities combined with Mereoleona's overwhelming offensive power. As final preparations were made, they found themselves alone for a moment in the command center. Mereoleona turned to Naruto, her expression uncharacteristically serious. "Why did you tell me to go?" she asked directly. "You need every fighter you can get." Naruto met her gaze steadily. "Because I know what it means to be torn between duty and what you believe is right. I didn't want you to have to make that choice." She studied him for a long moment. "You're a strange man, Naruto Uzumaki. In your position, most would demand allies, not release them from obligation." "I never wanted to be king," he reminded her. "I just wanted to protect people who needed it." Something softened in her fierce eyes. "And that is precisely why you deserve that crown." Before he could respond, she stepped closer, eliminating the space between them. Her hand caught the back of his neck, and she pulled him into a kiss that burned like her flames, intense, consuming, and utterly without hesitation. Naruto froze in surprise for only a second before responding, his hands finding her waist as the kiss deepened. When they finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Mereoleona's eyes glinted with challenge and something deeper. "For luck," she explained with a predatory smile. "I always take what I want before battle, in case it's my last." "Is that what I am?" Naruto asked. "Something you want?" Her smile widened. "You're only just figuring that out, Sorcerer King." A horn sounded from the walls, the enemy was within visual range. The moment of connection broken, they moved toward the exit, ready to take their positions. At the doorway, Mereoleona paused. "When this is over," she said without looking back, "we have much to discuss." "Looking forward to it," Naruto replied, meaning every word. Together. They stepped out to face the coming storm, neither knowing that beyond the approaching army, forces even darker were gathering, drawn by the unique energy signature of a king from another world and the unprecedented combination of opposing magical principles. In the shadows between worlds, Lucifero smiled as the pieces moved exactly as he had foreseen. Chapter 3, The True Crown. The Diamond Kingdom invasion force crashed against Uzushio's defenses like waves against a cliff, and like those waves, they kept coming. For 2 brutal days, Naruto and Mereoleona led a defense that military scholars would later call improbably successful. Now, as dawn broke on the 3rd day, they stood together on the shattered eastern wall, surveying the battlefield strewn with the remnants of Diamond's first assault waves. "They're regrouping," Mereoleona observed, her sharp eyes tracking movement on the horizon. 3 days of constant combat hadn't dimmed her battle fire. If anything, the challenge had only made her burn brighter. Naruto nodded, his usual grin replaced by a tight expression. "And we're running low on everything: supplies, soldiers, chakra barriers." 12 of his shadow clones maintained a massive anti-magic field around Uzushio's perimeter, nullifying Diamond Kingdom's ranged attacks. The strain showed in the dark circles under his eyes. Even his legendary stamina had limits. "Our scouts report reinforcements from the Clover Kingdom are still 2 days away," said Jiren, joining them with fresh damage reports. The once formal elder now wore patchwork armor and carried a blade that had tasted blood more than once during the siege. 2 days we might not have," Naruto muttered, accepting the reports. "Diamond's bringing in their elite units now. Those weird magical constructs with multiple attributes." "Morris's puppets," Mereoleona growled. "His experiments in forcing incompatible magics to coexist in a single vessel. Like what they tried to replicate from me," Naruto added. "But unstable and wrong." The last assault had included a dozen shambling figures whose bodies seemed barely able to contain the clashing magical energies grafted into them. They'd moved awkwardly but hit with terrifying power, each wielding multiple elemental magics simultaneously. It had taken both Naruto and Mereoleona working together to bring them down. "We should counterattack while they regroup," Mereoleona suggested, flames dancing around her fists. "Hit their command structure, sow confusion." Naruto shook his head reluctantly. "We don't have the numbers. Every fighter we send out there is one less defending the walls. Then we send a small, elite force, she pressed. Just us. The idea was tempting. Between his shadow clones and her overwhelming combat magic, they could certainly wreak havoc behind enemy lines. But the risk. I can't leave Uzushio undefended, Naruto finally decided. Not against whatever Morris is cooking up next. Mereoleona studied him with those piercing eyes that seemed to see straight through him. You've changed, Naruto Uzumaki. How so? When we first met, you would have charged headlong into enemy territory without a second thought. She gestured toward the settlement behind them. Now you think like a king, weighing risks against your people's safety. Before Naruto could respond, a messenger approached at a run. Your Majesty. Captain Vermilion. Urgent news from the western approach. They both turned, instantly alert. The western approach had been quiet throughout the siege, with all diamond forces concentrated to the east. What is it? Naruto demanded. The messenger caught his breath. New army approaching. Not Diamond Kingdom, their banners show the Spade Kingdom's insignia. Spade Kingdom? Mereoleona's expression darkened. They've maintained strict neutrality for decades. Why enter the conflict now? Not just Spade, the messenger continued. Heart Kingdom forces have been spotted approaching from the south. Heart Kingdom too? Naruto exchanged concerned glances with Mereoleona. Why would all the kingdoms suddenly converge here? Jiren's weathered face grew grave. It's no longer about Diamond Kingdom's ambitions. They're all coming for Uzushio itself, for what we represent. For you. Naruto clenched his fists. For me. For the Sorcerer King who wields both anti-magic and unlimited mana, Mereoleona clarified, understanding dawning in her eyes. Word of your abilities has spread. Each kingdom wants your power for themselves, or to ensure no other kingdom claims it. The realization hit Naruto like a physical blow. His presence in this world had destabilized the delicate balance between kingdoms, potentially triggering a continent-wide conflict. People would die because of him, not just his own followers, but soldiers from every nation drawn into this escalating war. I need to see these approaching forces for myself, he decided. Jiren, maintain our eastern defenses. Mereoleona, with me. They raced across Uzushio, leaping from rooftop to rooftop toward the western watchtower. The settlement below bustled with grim activity, medics treating wounded, civilians reinforcing barricades, children too young to evacuate helping however they could. These were his people now, Naruto realized. His responsibility. From the western tower, they spotted the approaching Spade Kingdom forces, their blue and silver banners unmistakable against the green landscape. Unlike Diamond's disorganized hordes, these troops moved with precision, magical vehicles and constructs supporting their advance. 5,000, at least, Mereoleona estimated. Elite mages among them. And Heart Kingdom to the south, Naruto added, creating a shadow clone to scout in that direction. We're surrounded. Not completely, Mereoleona pointed northward. The mountain passes remain clear. For evacuation. Naruto considered the possibility. The caves could shelter the civilians while we hold a defensive line. No, she interrupted firmly. For reinforcements. My Crimson Lions will come from that direction when they arrive. Naruto studied her confident expression. You seem awfully sure they're coming. A smirk played at her lips. I know my squad. They'll disobey any order that keeps them from their captain's side in battle. Despite everything, Naruto found himself smiling. Loyal to you, not the kingdom. Loyal to what matters, she corrected. As all true warriors should be. A shadow clone appeared beside them, dispelling immediately to transfer its reconnaissance information. Naruto's expression grew more troubled as he processed the new intelligence. Heart Kingdom's forces are smaller but include their spirit guardians, elite mages who've contracted with elemental spirits. He frowned. And they're communicating with Diamond's commanders. They're coordinating. A coalition, Mereoleona concluded grimly. All three kingdoms moving against Uzushio simultaneously. Four kingdoms, Naruto corrected. The clone-spotted Clover Kingdom nobles among the Heart contingent. Not official forces, but private armies from noble houses. Kira Clive, Mereoleona growled. He never intended to honor the treaty negotiations. He's been building support for a military solution all along. They watched the distant armies for a long moment, the gravity of their situation settling like a physical weight. We can't fight them all, Naruto finally admitted. Not even with your Crimson Lions. Then what do you suggest, Sorcerer King? Mereoleona challenged, though her tone held no mockery. Surrender? Never. The word came instantly, with absolute conviction. But we need to change the game. Fighting conventionally plays to their strengths. And what are our strengths? Naruto turned to her, blue eyes blazing with determination. Innovation. Unpredictability. And whatever that thing was we did together in the diamond facility, when our powers combined. Mereoleona's eyes widened slightly. The unifying principle. What? Something Julius once theorized, that all magical attributes, despite appearing opposite and incompatible, spring from a single unified source. Her expression turned thoughtful. When we combined your anti-magic with my flames. We created something new, Naruto finished. Something that shouldn't have been possible. A plan began forming in his mind, audacious, possibly suicidal, but with a chance of success where conventional defense offered none. I need to talk to the council, he said suddenly. And I'll need your absolute honesty about what I'm about to propose. The council chamber filled quickly, representatives from each district gathering alongside military commanders. Tavin, Kal, Mora, and Jiren took their usual places, while others stood wherever space allowed. Mereoleona stood slightly apart, arms crossed, watching the proceedings with keen interest. Three armies converge on Uzushio, Naruto began without preamble. Diamond from the east, Spade from the west, Heart from the south. Conservative estimates put their combined forces at over 20,000. Murmurs of dismay rippled through the room. Clover Kingdom nobles have joined the coalition, he continued. And while official Clover forces may still be coming to our aid, they won't arrive in time to prevent a coordinated attack. Can we hold out? Tavin asked, always practical. Against one kingdom, possibly. Against three, with their elite magic users? Naruto shook his head. Not conventionally. Then what options remain? More oppressed, her weathered hands folded calmly despite the dire news. Evacuation through the northern passes. Too slow, too vulnerable, Kal objected. They'd cut us down during the retreat. Naruto took a deep breath. I have a plan. It's risky, but it might save Uzushio and prevent all-out war between the kingdoms. He outlined his strategy quickly, not a conventional defense, but a targeted strike at the heart of the coalition itself. Using the ancient crystal recovered from the dungeon, he and Mereoleona would attempt to create a unified field that could temporarily neutralize all offensive magic within a massive radius. In the absence of magical advantage, negotiations become possible, he explained. We force a ceasefire by removing everyone's ability to fight. And how exactly would this field work? Tavin asked skeptically. Even your anti-magic has limits, your majesty. That's where this gets complicated, Naruto admitted. When Captain Vermilion and I combined our abilities at the diamond facility, we created an effect neither of us could produce alone. The crystal responded to that combination. He turned to Mereoleona. Tell them what you know about the crystal. The truth. She stepped forward, commanding the room's attention effortlessly. The crystal is an elvish artifact, thousands of years old. Similar crystals were used during the ancient war between elves and humans to amplify magical effects across vast areas. But this particular crystal is different, she continued. According to records in the Clover Kingdom's forbidden archives, it was created specifically to unify opposing magical principles, a theoretical weapon that was never successfully activated. Because no one had both creation and negation abilities, Naruto added. Until me. And until your combined technique with Captain Vermilion, Mora observed shrewdly. Which suggests the crystal requires not just opposing principles, but their harmonious fusion. Naruto nodded. Exactly. We didn't fully activate it at the facility, just got a glimpse of its potential. And you propose to fully activate it now? Jiren asked, alarm evident in his voice. An ancient weapon of unknown power? Not as a weapon, Naruto clarified. As a neutralizing field. If we can calibrate it properly, it should temporarily suspend all magical combat abilities within its range. No one gets hurt, they just can't fight. The council exchanged troubled glances, weighing the enormous risk against their increasingly desperate situation. And if you cannot control it? Mora asked quietly. If this ancient power proves beyond even your considerable abilities? Naruto met her gaze steadily. Then at least I tried to protect Uzushio without further bloodshed. Mereoleona stepped forward to stand beside him. I believe this plan can succeed. The theoretical framework is sound, and I've seen what Naruto can do with harmonized energy. Coming from the famously battle-hungry captain, the endorsement carried significant weight. The council members looked at each other, a silent communication passing between them. How long would we have? Tavin asked finally. Assuming the field works as intended. Minutes, maybe an hour at most, Naruto admitted. Just long enough to force the coalition leaders to the negotiating table. And you expect them to negotiate in good faith? Call scoffed. They came here to conquer, not compromise. They came for me, Naruto corrected quietly. For the power of the Sorcerer King. I'm offering them something more valuable, the chance to avoid a war that would devastate all four kingdoms. Silence fell over the room as the council considered his words. Finally, Mora spoke for them all. What do you need from us, Your Majesty? Preparations moved with urgent efficiency. The crystal was brought to the central plaza and mounted on a specially constructed platform. Around it, mages with measurement abilities monitored energy fluctuations while Naruto and Mereoleona tested different combinations of their powers in controlled bursts. The resonance frequency is erratic, reported a former Diamond Kingdom researcher who had defected to Uzushio months earlier. Each combination produces different harmonic patterns. We need consistency, Mereoleona observed, studying the data. A stable fusion that won't fluctuate under pressure. Naruto frowned, considering the problem. Maybe we're approaching this wrong. We're trying to force our abilities to mix, but back at the facility, it happened naturally. In the heat of battle, Mereoleona added, catching his meaning. When we weren't overthinking it. They locked eyes, a wordless understanding passing between them. Everyone clear the area, Naruto ordered. Give us some space. When the plaza had emptied except for necessary observers at a safe distance, Naruto and Mereoleona stood facing each other on opposite sides of the crystal. No techniques, no forced channeling, Naruto suggested. Just, connection. Mereoleona nodded, flames naturally dancing around her form as she relaxed into her power. Naruto did the same, allowing his chakra to flow freely, the golden energy of his reserves mixing with the darker anti-magic properties he developed in this world. They moved simultaneously, reaching out to touch the crystal from opposite sides. As their hands neared the artifact, tendrils of their respective energies extended toward each other, flame and chakra, creation and negation, intertwining in delicate patterns before making contact with the crystal's surface. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The crystal pulsed with brilliant light, rising from its mount to hover between them. Symbols etched into its surface began to glow, rotating as if seeking proper alignment. It's working, Naruto breathed, maintaining his energy flow. Not yet, Mereoleona replied, her eyes locked on the crystal. It's searching for the right resonance. The crystal's rotation accelerated, its light intensifying until observers had to shield their eyes. Naruto felt his chakra being drawn into the artifact in increasing amounts, while Mereoleona's flames burned hotter and brighter. Something's wrong, he realized suddenly. It's taking too much, too fast. Hold steady, Mereoleona commanded, her own face tightening with strain. It's calibrating to our maximum output. The crystal began to emit a high-pitched tone that made everyone wince. The symbols on its surface shifted into new configurations, ancient elvish script transforming into patterns neither human had ever seen. Naruto, Mereoleona warned, a rare note of uncertainty in her voice. This isn't what we expected. He met her gaze through the blinding light of the crystal. Together? She nodded once, resolute. Together. In perfect synchronization, they pushed more power into the crystal, not fighting its hunger but feeding it deliberately, controlling the flow. The artifact's tone shifted to a deeper, resonant hum as the symbols stabilized into a fixed pattern. There, shouted the diamond researcher from the observation post. Harmonic convergence achieved. The crystal's light suddenly contracted, condensing into an intense core before exploding outward in a silent pulse of energy that swept across Uzushio and beyond. As the wave passed through people and buildings, it left an opalescent sheen that faded after seconds. Naruto and Mereoleona stood frozen, their hands still extended toward the now dormant crystal hovering serenely between them. Did it work? Someone called from the edge of the plaza. Mereoleona attempted to summon her flames. Nothing happened. Naruto tried to create a shadow clone. Nothing. It worked, he confirmed, a mixture of relief and apprehension washing over him. All magic and chakra-based abilities within the pulse radius have been temporarily neutralized. How long will it last? Mereoleona asked, examining her flameless hands with scientific curiosity rather than distress. Unknown, admitted the diamond researcher, approaching cautiously. The pulse extended far beyond our calculation models. It may have reached the coalition armies. Then we move immediately, Naruto decided. While everyone's trying to figure out what happened. They rode toward the coalition command post on conventional horses, magical transportation being currently impossible. Naruto, Mereoleona, and a small delegation of Uzushio's council members carried a white flag and the neutralized crystal as proof of their capabilities. The coalition camp was in chaos when they arrived. Mages frantically attempted spells that wouldn't form, magical tools failed to function, and communication systems relying on magical relays had gone silent. Guards raised conventional weapons as the Uzushio delegation approached, but made no move to attack without orders. I seek audience with the coalition commanders, Naruto announced. To discuss terms that will benefit all kingdoms. They were escorted, under heavy guard, to a large tent where representatives from all 4 kingdoms argued heatedly. The tent fell silent as Naruto and Mereoleona entered, the crystal floating passively in a container carried by Jiren. Morris was there, Naruto noted with narrowed eyes, representing Diamond Kingdom alongside military generals. Heart Kingdom was represented by a serene-looking woman with plant-like adornments, while Spade's delegation consisted of stern military officers. And, as expected, Lord Kira Clive stood among a group of Clover Kingdom nobles, his face purpling with rage at the sight of Mereoleona. Captain Vermilion. This is treason, he sputtered. Siding with this usurper against your own kingdom. I side with peace, Mereoleona replied coldly. Something you seem eager to sacrifice for political gain. What have you done to our magic? Demanded the Heart Kingdom representative, her usual calm clearly strained. Naruto stepped forward, projecting the confidence of the Hokage he had once aspired to become. I've created an opportunity for dialogue without bloodshed, he explained. The neutralizing field is temporary. When it fades, you can resume trying to kill each other, and us, or we can reach an agreement that benefits everyone. Benefits everyone, scoffed a Diamond Kingdom general. You've built a power base that threatens the established order of all 4 kingdoms. I've built a home for people your kingdom's discarded, Naruto countered. And developed techniques that allow even the magicless to harness their inner energy. Precisely why you must be controlled, Morris interjected, studying Naruto with clinical interest. Such innovations could destabilize the entire magical hierarchy upon which our societies are built. Or they could evolve it, suggested the Heart Kingdom representative thoughtfully. Queen Lalapeka has expressed interest in your methods, Sorcerer King. Naruto seized the opening. Uzushio seeks peaceful coexistence and mutually beneficial exchange, not conflict. We'll share our knowledge with any kingdom that respects our autonomy. Autonomy? Lord Clive laughed bitterly. You occupy Clover Kingdom territory. Territory the Clover Kingdom abandoned, Mereoleona reminded him. Until it suddenly became valuable again. The Spade Kingdom commander spoke for the first time, his voice surprisingly pragmatic. What exactly are you proposing, Sorcerer King? Naruto laid out his terms concisely: recognition of Uzushio as an independent city-state with defined boundaries, non-aggression pacts with all four kingdoms, open trade and knowledge exchange, and mutual defense against external threats. In return, he concluded, we share our energy manipulation techniques with all kingdoms equally, disadvantaging none while benefiting all. And if we refuse? Morris asked, though his expression suggested he already knew the answer. Naruto nodded toward the crystal. Then we activate a permanent version of this field around Uzushio. No magic works within our territory, not yours, not ours. We survive on skill and physical ability alone, which I assure you, we've prepared for. It was a bluff, they had no way to create a permanent field, but the coalition commanders couldn't know that. The threat of a magic dead zone at the heart of the continent was strategically unacceptable to all four kingdoms. Heated debate erupted among the coalition leaders, with arguments splitting along predictable lines. Diamond and the Clover nobles rejected the proposal outright, while Heart showed interest in peaceful exchange. Spade remained calculatingly neutral, weighing advantages against costs. As the argument intensified, Naruto noticed something strange. Shadows in the tent's corners seemed to deepen, moving subtly against the lantern light. A familiar sensation prickled at the edge of his awareness, the same feeling he'd experienced in the ancient dungeon where they'd found the crystal. He glanced at Mereoleona, who had also tensed, her warrior's instincts alerting her to the unnatural shift in atmosphere. Kit, something's wrong, Kurama warned inside Naruto's mind. This magic neutralization, it's affecting something else too. Something that was hidden. Hidden? Like what? Like seals. Barriers. Containment spells. The realization hit Naruto just as the earth beneath them trembled. Outside the tent, soldiers shouted in alarm. What now? Demanded the Diamond General, rising from his seat. A messenger burst through the tent flap. Sir. Strange phenomena reported throughout the camp. Dark energy manifestations, gravitational distortions, another tremor, stronger this time, cut off his report. The crystal in Jiren's container began to glow again, symbols reappearing on its surface in chaotic, unstable patterns. The neutralizing field is failing, Naruto realized aloud. But something's interfering with its natural dissolution. Something is feeding on it, Mereoleona corrected, her eyes widening with recognition. Devil magic. The temperature in the tent plummeted. Shadows coalesced in the center of the gathering, forming a swirling vortex of darkness. From within that vortex, a voice spoke, smooth, cultured, and chilling. How perceptive, lioness of the crimson flames. Indeed, devil magic finds your neutralizing field quite nutritious. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, elegantly dressed in archaic formal wear, with curling horns and eyes that burned like coals. He surveyed the stunned gathering with aristocratic disdain. Please, don't stop your petty negotiations on my account, he said, gesturing magnanimously. Though they are, of course, entirely irrelevant now. Lucifero, whispered the Heart Kingdom representative, genuine fear in her voice. The highest-ranking devil, Mereoleona explained for Naruto's benefit, her body automatically shifting into a combat stance despite her currently suppressed magic. Supposedly sealed in the underworld. Supposedly, Lucifero agreed with a cold smile. Until the Sorcerer King so thoughtfully provided a way out. What are you talking about? Naruto demanded, edging protectively in front of the Uzushio delegation. Lucifero regarded him with amused condescension. Your little experiment with opposing magical principles created fluctuations in the barriers between worlds. When you expanded it to neutralize all magic in the region, you also neutralized the ancient seals containing the underworld. Horror dawned on Naruto's face. The pulse was the key I've waited centuries for, Lucifero confirmed. Even now, the gates between worlds weaken. My kind pours forth into your realm once again. As if to emphasize his point, more tremors shook the ground. Outside, screams and the sounds of battle erupted as lesser devils emerged from suddenly appearing gates throughout the coalition camp. You planned this, Naruto accused, pieces falling into place. The escalating conflicts between kingdoms, the coalition forming against Uzushio, you've been manipulating events all along. Lucifero applauded mockingly. Very good, Your Majesty. Humans are so delightfully predictable in their greed and fear. A whisper here, a nudge there, all to create the perfect conditions for a desperate gambit using ancient magic you barely understand. The coalition commanders looked between Lucifero and each other in growing alarm, political divisions temporarily forgotten in the face of a greater threat. We need to re-establish the seals, Mereoleona said urgently. Before more devils cross over. Impossible without the original ritual components, Morris interjected, his scientific mind already analyzing the problem. The ancient mages used specific artifact combinations that have been lost for centuries. Not lost, Lucifero corrected smugly. Simply relocated. To my throne room. A new tremor rocked the tent, this one strong enough to knock several people off their feet. The crystal in Jiren's container shattered its containment, rising into the air with renewed energy. Its symbols shifted again, aligning into a pattern that resembled a doorway. Ah, right on schedule, Lucifero observed with satisfaction. The final phase begins. The crystal projected a massive magical gateway in the center of the coalition camp, a towering arch of swirling energy through which a landscape of twisted rock and red skies became visible. The underworld, gasped the heart representative. He's opening a direct portal. Not just opening it, inverting it, Morris realized, his academic fascination temporarily overriding his fear. The underworld will merge with our realm wherever the neutralizing field touched. Naruto turned to Mereoleona, a desperate plan forming. The crystal responds to our combined energy. If we can reclaim it, we might reverse the process, she finished, already moving toward the floating artifact. Lucifero's amused expression hardened. I think not. With a casual gesture, he sent a wave of dark energy through the tent, knocking everyone back except Naruto, whose anti-magic properties partially shielded him. The crystal shot upward, tearing through the tent's roof as it aligned itself with the massive gateway outside. Your meddling ends here, Sorcerer King, Lucifero declared. Though I must thank you for your unwitting assistance. Your unique energy signature was the catalyst I needed. He dissolved into shadows, reappearing instantly beside the gateway outside. The coalition camp had descended into chaos, with soldiers from all four kingdoms fighting desperately against emerging devils while trying to evacuate. Naruto burst from the ruined tent, Mereoleona at his side. The neutralizing field was weakening unevenly, allowing brief flares of magical ability. Mereoleona managed to summon small flames around her fists, while Naruto felt his chakra reserves becoming partially accessible again. Can you reach your full power? He asked her as they raced toward the gateway. Intermittently, she replied. The field fluctuates, we might get moments of full magic between disruptions. Then we time our attack for one of those moments, Naruto decided. Hit Lucifero with everything simultaneously. They reached the edge of the gathering maelstrom surrounding the gateway. Lucifero hovered before it, arms extended as he channeled dark energy into the crystal floating at the portal's apex. The artifact pulsed in response, widening the connection between realms with each beat. "We need to get closer," Mereoleona shouted over the howling magical winds. Naruto nodded grimly. "Cover me." He charged forward, dodging lesser devils and energy discharges. Mereoleona followed, using her briefly accessible flame magic to clear a path through the supernatural obstacles. They fought with perfect coordination, her flames complementing his taijutsu and chakra bursts whenever the neutralizing field momentarily weakened. Lucifero noticed their approach, his expression shifting from confidence to irritation. "Persistent insects," he muttered, gesturing toward them. "Let me provide more appropriate playmates." The ground before them erupted as four high-ranking devils emerged, each a twisted parody of humanity with unique magical abilities. Unlike the lesser devils rampaging through the camp, these were intelligent, powerful beings with centuries of combat experience. Mid-ranking devils, Mereoleona identified them. Zenon, Vanica, Dante, and Magicula. "Friends of yours?" Naruto asked, dropping into a defensive stance. "Ancient enemies of humanity," she corrected. "Each hosted by a dark triad member in past conflicts." "We serve Lucifero now," hissed the female devil with butterfly-like features, Magicula, apparently. "And he wants you alive, Sorcerer King. Your unique energy will feed the gateway." "Sorry to disappoint," Naruto replied, feeling a surge as the neutralizing field weakened further. He seized the opportunity, forming a Rasengan that pulsed with both golden chakra and anti-magic energy. "But I've got other plans." The devils attacked simultaneously, forcing Naruto and Mereoleona to separate. Each devil wielded magic that partially functioned despite the weakening field: blood magic, body magic, spatial magic, and curse magic working in devastating combination. Mereoleona faced Dante and Zenon, her flame magic flaring to full strength as the field fluctuated. Flame magic, Calidus Brachium Purgatory. Her entire body erupted in flames as she launched a blistering assault. Naruto confronted Vanica and Magicula, using his shadow clones whenever chakra became available and anti-magic properties during disruptions. The fight was chaotic, powers flickering in and out as the neutralizing field continued its uneven collapse. "We can't reach Lucifero in time," Mereoleona called as she dodged a spatial slash from Zenon. "The gateway is almost complete." Naruto glanced toward the portal, where the crystal now pulsed with blinding intensity. Lucifero had begun a chant in an ancient language, each word causing new cracks to appear in the barrier between worlds. An idea struck him: desperate, dangerous, but possibly their only chance. "Mereoleona," he shouted. "Remember how we synchronized at the diamond facility?" She knocked Dante backward with a flame-enhanced punch. "Yes. We need to do it again, but bigger." He ducked under Magicula's curse whip. "If we can't reach the crystal directly, we overload it remotely," she finished, immediately understanding. "Synchronize our energies to disrupt Lucifero's control." They fought their way toward each other, the four devils attempting to keep them separated. When a particularly strong fluctuation in the field granted them nearly full access to their powers, they seized the moment. Naruto created dozens of shadow clones to occupy the devils while he and Mereoleona broke away, positioning themselves on opposite sides of the gateway at matching distances. "On my mark," Naruto called, gathering enormous amounts of chakra. Golden energy cloaked his form as he accessed Kurama's power, while anti-magic darkness swirled around his hands. Across from him, Mereoleona ignited her ultimate technique. Flame magic, Calidus Brachium Maximum Mereoleona. Her body became a living inferno, the heat so intense that the ground beneath her feet turned to glass. Lucifero noticed their maneuver too late, his chanting faltering as he recognized the threat. "Stop them," he commanded the mid-ranking devils, but they were fully engaged with Naruto's clones. "Now!" Naruto roared. They released their powers simultaneously, not directly at Lucifero or the crystal, but at precisely calculated points that would cause their energies to collide at the gateway's center. Naruto's golden chakra mixed with anti-magic darkness shot forward in a concentrated beam, while Mereoleona released a focused flame spear of unprecedented intensity. The energies met exactly where the crystal floated, creating an explosion of combined power that defied magical principles. Gold, black, and crimson energies merged into something entirely new, a swirling vortex that consumed magical energy rather than releasing it. The crystal absorbed this combined power, its symbols rearranging frantically as it tried to process the conflicting inputs. Lucifero's control over the gateway faltered as the artifact rebelled against his influence. "No," he snarled, pouring more of his own power into the crystal. "You cannot undo centuries of planning." But the damage was done. The crystal pulsed erratically, its harmonics destabilized by the competing energies. The gateway began to fluctuate, the view of the underworld distorting. "It's working!" Mereoleona shouted. "The gateway is collapsing." Lucifero abandoned his channeling, rage contorting his aristocratic features. "If I cannot have this realm, then neither shall you." He gestured toward the crystal, sending a final surge of dark power into the artifact. "Let both worlds burn in the collapse." The crystal cracked visibly, fracture lines spreading across its surface. The gateway began to implode, creating a vacuum that pulled everything nearby toward its center. "He's trying to create a catastrophic collapse," Naruto realized. If the gateway destabilizes completely, both realms could be destroyed at the intersection point, Mereoleona finished grimly. "Everything within hundreds of miles." They locked eyes across the maelstrom, a silent understanding passing between them. There was only one option left. "We have to follow the crystal," Naruto called. "Stabilize it from the other side." Mereoleona nodded without hesitation. Together, they charged toward the imploding gateway from opposite directions, timing their approach to coincide with the crystal's passage through the portal. Lucifero, seeing their intent, moved to intercept them. "Fools! The underworld will consume your souls." Naruto formed one last technique, a truth-seeking orb drawn from his six paths power, which briefly manifested despite the field's interference. "Catch us if you can." He hurled the orb at Lucifero, forcing the devil to defend himself rather than stop their advance. In that moment of distraction, Naruto and Mereoleona leapt into the collapsing gateway, following the damaged crystal into the underworld as the portal snapped shut behind them. The sky burned red. That was Naruto's first coherent thought as consciousness returned. The ground beneath him felt wrong, neither solid nor liquid, but something in between that shifted subtly with each movement. "Mereoleona," he called, sitting up to survey his surroundings. They had landed on a plain of black stone that flowed like sluggish lava in places. Jagged mountains ringed the horizon, their peaks occasionally disgorging plumes of dark smoke. The air itself felt heavy, saturated with malevolent energy that pressed against his skin. "Here." Her voice came from nearby, where she was already standing, alert and ready despite their rough transition. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, but her eyes burned with undiminished intensity. "The underworld," Naruto confirmed, rising to join her. "Looks about as friendly as I expected." "No devil realm is meant for the living," she replied, scanning their surroundings. "This place will try to corrupt us the longer we remain. Then we find the crystal and get out fast." Naruto closed his eyes, extending his senses. Without the neutralizing field, his abilities had fully returned, including his sensory capabilities. "There, about 2 miles that way." He pointed toward a towering structure barely visible through the red haze, a palace of black stone and twisted metal that seemed to defy architectural possibility. Lucifero's stronghold, Mereoleona identified it. The crystal would naturally be drawn to the realm's center of power. They set off immediately, moving across the unstable landscape with cautious speed. Lesser devils occasionally appeared in their path, misshapen creatures that attacked mindlessly, but the combined power of Naruto's Razengans and Mereoleona's flames dispatched them efficiently. Something's not right, Naruto observed after their fourth such encounter. These attacks feel perfunctory. Testing our abilities, Mereoleona agreed. Lucifero is gauging our strength before confronting us directly. As they neared the palace, the attack ceased entirely. An unnatural silence fell over the plain, broken only by the distant sound of what might have been screams or whine through the twisted spires. The palace entrance yawned before them, an arch of bone and obsidian with no visible doors or guards. Clearly an invitation. Trap? Naruto asked rhetorically. Absolutely, Mereoleona confirmed. But also our only path forward. They entered side by side, alert for any sign of ambush. The interior proved even more disorienting than the landscape, corridors that bent at impossible angles, staircases that led both up and down simultaneously, chambers that seemed larger inside than their exterior dimensions should allow. The crystal's energy signature is stronger, Naruto noted as they navigated the spatial anomalies. It's trying to stabilize itself. Can it succeed without our intervention? I don't think so. It needs the harmonic resonance we created to reverse the damage Lucifero caused. They followed the crystal's energy trail to the heart of the palace, a vast circular chamber whose ceiling opened directly to the red sky above. In the center, suspended above a pool of what appeared to be liquid shadow, floated the crystal. Its fracture lines had deepened, darkness seeping from the cracks like blood from a wound. Welcome to my throne room, Lucifero's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. Few living beings have seen it. Fewer still have left it intact. He materialized on an ornate chair of bone and metal opposite the crystal. Despite their violent parting, he appeared perfectly composed, adjusting his sleeves with aristocratic precision. The gateway collapsed as planned, he informed them casually. Though not quite how I intended. Your interference forced me to settle for a smaller victory. What victory? Naruto demanded. We stopped your invasion. Lucifero smiled thinly. Did you? Look more closely at the crystal. The artifact's glow had dimmed, but through the cracks, threads of dark energy connected to the pool below, feeding something within its depths. The spell continues, Lucifero explained, just inverted. Instead of bringing the underworld to your realm, it's bringing pieces of your realm here. Starting with the place that bears your unique energy signature. Horror dawned on Naruto's face. Uzushio. Even now, your precious settlement shifts partially into my domain. Those who bear your mark, your citizens, your followers, will eventually join my collection. Not happening, Naruto growled, golden chakra flaring around him. We're taking back the crystal and reversing the spell. By all means, try, Lucifero invited, gesturing toward the artifact. But approach the pool, and you'll find your souls make excellent additions to my collection. Mereoleona stepped forward, flames wreathing her form. We don't need to approach it. She exchanged a quick glance with Naruto, who nodded in understanding. They had synchronized their powers twice before, at the diamond facility and at the gateway. The third time would be even stronger, their energies now perfectly attuned to each other. You believe your little harmonization trick will work here? Lucifero laughed coldly. This is my realm. My rules. Funny thing about rules, Naruto replied, channeling massive amounts of chakra as Mereoleona's flames intensified. I've never been good at following them. They released their energies simultaneously, aiming not at Lucifero or the crystal directly, but at precise angles that would cause their powers to converge at the artifact's location. Gold-tinged chakra and crimson flames shot across the chamber, meeting at the crystal with perfect synchronicity. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The crystal absorbed their combined energy, its glow intensifying as the fracture lines began to heal. The dark threads connecting it to the shadow pool thinned and snapped one by one. Lucifero's composed expression shattered. Impossible. No human magic can override my connection. It's not just magic, Naruto explained, maintaining his energy output with visible strain. It's chakra from another world entirely, outside your domain's rules. And it's not just power, Mereoleona added, her flames burning ever brighter. It's harmony between opposing forces. Something devils can never achieve. The crystal pulsed with renewed vitality, symbols realigning into the same doorway pattern they had seen at the gateway. A new portal began to form, smaller, more controlled, directly above the artifact. You cannot escape. Lucifero snarled, finally abandoning his throne. Dark energy coalesced around him as he assumed his true form, a towering figure with multiple wings and horns, radiating malevolence. This realm does not release what it claims. He launched a direct attack, sending a wave of pure corruption toward them. Naruto broke his connection to the crystal momentarily, using his truth-seeking orbs to create a shield while Mereoleona maintained the harmonization. Keep the connection, he told her. I'll handle Lucifero. Naruto engaged the devil directly, golden chakra clashing with dark energy in spectacular collisions throughout the chamber. His six paths abilities gave him an edge that clearly surprised Lucifero, who had expected conventional human limitations. What are you? The devil demanded, after Naruto's chakra arms countered attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. No human moves like this. I'm the Sorcerer King, Naruto replied simply, landing a Rasengan directly against Lucifero's chest. And you messed with my people. The blow sent the devil crashing into his throne, shattering the ornate structure. Meanwhile, the crystal's portal had stabilized, showing a glimpse of the human realm beyond, specifically, Uzushio's central plaza, where the activation ritual had begun. Mereoleona. Naruto called. It's ready. She maintained her flame connection while moving toward him. We go together. Lucifero rose from the ruins of his throne, rage distorting his features. I will follow you. Your realm will still fall. No, Naruto countered, creating one final technique, a six paths, ultra-big ball raisin shuriken infused with natural energy he'd been gathering throughout the fight. You're staying here to rebuild your palace. He hurled the massive technique not at Lucifero directly, but at the foundations of the throne room itself. The resulting explosion shook the entire structure, causing massive sections of ceiling and wall to collapse. The shadow pool began to drain through new fissures in the floor, taking its collected souls with it. The crystal. Mereoleona shouted. It's destabilizing again. Indeed, the portal was fluctuating as the room collapsed around them. They had seconds at most before it would close permanently. Naruto reached. Mereoleona sighed just as Lucifero launched himself toward them in desperate rage. Together, they directed one final combined attack, her flames and his chakra merging into a concentrated beam that struck the devil mid-flight, sending him crashing back into the collapsing shadows. Now. Naruto grabbed the crystal with one hand and Mereoleona with the other, pulling them both through the portal just as the throne room imploded behind them. They crashed onto the stone pavement of Uzushio's central plaza, the crystal clutched tightly in Naruto's hand. Around them, the settlement appeared partially transparent in places, buildings, people, even parts of the ground shifting between solid reality and ghostly translucence. The merger is still in progress, Mereoleona observed, rising quickly to her feet. We need to reverse it immediately. Coalition soldiers and Uzushio defenders alike stared in shock at their sudden appearance. The fighting had apparently paused in the face of the supernatural phenomenon affecting the settlement. Everyone stay back. Naruto commanded, placing the crystal on the ritual platform where they had first activated it. Mereoleona, just like before. They positioned themselves on opposite sides of the crystal, which pulsed with unstable energy, sometimes brilliant white, sometimes darkness deeper than night. The fracture lines remained, leaking both light and shadow in alternating pulses. It's more damage than I thought, Naruto said grimly. This will take everything we have. Mereoleona met his gaze steadily. Then everything it gets. They began channeling their energies once more, Naruto's golden chakra and anti-magic properties, Mereoleona's crimson flames. The familiar harmonization occurred, but this time they pushed beyond previous limits, drawing on reserves they hadn't known they possessed. The crystal responded, its symbols realigning into a complex pattern that spread across the plaza stones. A dome of energy formed around them, expanding to encompass the entire settlement. Within that dome, the shifting between realms stabilized, then began to reverse. "It's working," someone shouted from the crowd of onlookers. Indeed, ghostly structures solidified, translucent people became fully corporeal again. The underworld's influence receded like a tide pulling back from shore. But the crystal's fractures deepened further, dark energy still seeping from the cracks. Something still connecting it to the underworld, Mereoleona realized. A tether we can't see. Naruto extended his senses through the harmonized connection, following the crystal's energy pathways. He found it, a thin thread of darkness anchored deep within the artifact's core, leading back to Sorcerer himself. "He's holding on," Naruto confirmed. "Using the original connection he established." "Can we break it?" "Not without destroying the crystal completely," Naruto replied. "And that might trap portions of Uzushio permanently in the underworld." Mereoleona's eyes narrowed in determination. "Then we don't break it. We redirect it." Understanding dawned on Naruto's face. "Use his own tether to send something back." "Exactly." Together, they altered their energy flow, maintaining the harmonization but changing its purpose. Instead of simply stabilizing the crystal, they used it as a conduit, sending a surge of their combined power along Sorcerer's tether back to its source. The crystal shuddered violently, its glow intensifying to blinding levels. From within its depths came a sound like distant screaming, rage and disbelief combined. "You cannot defeat me in my own realm." Sorcerer's voice echoed from the crystal. "I am eternal." "Maybe so," Naruto replied, pushing more chakra into the connection. "But you'll have to rebuild that eternity from scratch." With a final, concentrated effort, they sent a pulse of harmonized energy through the tether that overwhelmed Sorcerer's connection. The dark thread snapped, backlashing into the underworld with the force of their combined power. The crystal's fractures sealed instantly, its glow stabilizing into a soft, steady light. The dome of energy pulsed once more across Uzushio, cementing the settlement fully back in the human realm. As the energy faded, Naruto and Mereoleona released their connection. The crystal descended gently onto the platform, now appearing whole and dormant. Exhausted beyond measure, they barely managed to remain standing as the gathered crowd erupted in cheers. Uzushio was fully restored, the threat from the underworld temporarily contained, and the coalition armies stood frozen in shock at what they had witnessed. "Did we win?" Naruto asked softly, swaying slightly as chakra exhaustion hit him like a physical blow. Mereoleona caught his arm, steadying him despite her own fatigue. "For today, yes." The coalition commanders approached cautiously, Morris, Lord Clive, and the representatives from Heart and Spade kingdoms. Their expressions ranged from calculation to reluctant respect. "The devils have retreated," the Heart Kingdom representative confirmed. "Whatever you did through that crystal severed their connection to our realm." "Temporarily," Mereoleona cautioned. "Sorcerer will rebuild his power eventually." "But that's a problem for another day," Naruto added. "Right now, we have more immediate concerns." He gestured toward the armies still surrounding Uzushio, now without supernatural complications to distract from the original conflict. Lord Clive stepped forward, his previous arrogance notably diminished. "In light of recent developments, the coalition is willing to reconsider its position regarding Uzushio's status." "How generous," Mereoleona remarked dryly. "The defense of all realms from devil incursion takes priority over territorial disputes," the Spade commander added pragmatically. "Your knowledge of dimensional barriers and harmonization techniques could prove invaluable. And the fact that we just saved all your kingdoms from devil invasion?" Naruto pressed. Morris adjusted his glasses, scientific curiosity temporarily overriding political concerns. Demonstrates a power that could benefit all kingdoms through proper research collaboration. Naruto exchanged glances with Mereoleona, both recognizing the careful repositioning happening before them. The coalition wasn't offering peace out of gratitude or moral realization, but from pragmatic reassessment of Uzushio's value as an ally rather than a conquest. Here's what's going to happen, Naruto declared, standing straighter despite his exhaustion. Your armies will withdraw immediately. Representatives will return in 1 week for treaty negotiations based on the terms I outlined earlier. Until then, Uzushio will recover and rebuild. You're dictating terms to 4 kingdoms. Lord. Clive bristled, some of his arrogance returning. No, Naruto corrected calmly. I'm offering cooperation against a threat greater than any political dispute. Lucifero will return, and when he does, divided kingdoms will fall. United we stand, divided we fall, Mereoleona added, flames briefly dancing around her shoulders for emphasis despite her depleted reserves. Ancient wisdom that remains relevant. The coalition commanders conferred briefly before the Heart representative spoke for them all. 1 week. For preliminary negotiations only. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was a beginning. As the coalition representatives withdrew to relay orders to their respective armies, Naruto turned to Mereoleona. You could go with them, he said quietly. Return to your squad, explain what happened. They'd understand. She gave him a look that somehow combined exasperation and affection. Are you trying to get rid of me, Sorcerer King? Never, he replied honestly. But I know your duty to the Clover Kingdom is important to you. My duty, she said thoughtfully, is to protect what matters. Right now, that's here. Something warm unfurled in Naruto's chest at her words. Before he could respond, Jiren approached with Mora and other council members. Your Majesty, Jiren began, bowing deeply. Uzushio stands because of you. We all saw what you did, traveling to the underworld itself to save us. Murmurs of agreement rose from the gathered citizens. Many knelt in genuine reverence, something that made Naruto distinctly uncomfortable. Please don't do that, he requested, gesturing for them to rise. I just did what was necessary. And I didn't do it alone. He glanced at Mereoleona, who accepted the implied recognition with a regal nod. Nevertheless, Mora said, her wise eyes twinkling, I believe a proper coronation is long overdue. The people need to celebrate their king, especially after nearly being dragged into the underworld. Coronation? Naruto repeated weakly. That's really not necessary, oh, but it is, Mereoleona interrupted, an uncharacteristic mischief in her expression. A king should be properly crowned, don't you think? Not you too, he groaned. The ceremony will boost morale, she continued reasonably. And send a message to the kingdoms about Uzushio's legitimacy. Naruto looked between his council members and Mereoleona, recognizing when he was outmaneuvered. Fine. A small ceremony. Nothing elaborate. Mora's smile suggested his definition of small and hers might differ significantly. This is not small, Naruto muttered a week later, peering through a window at the crowd gathered in Uzushio's central plaza. The entire settlement had turned out for the coronation, along with representatives from all 4 kingdoms, official delegations sent to both witness the ceremony and begin treaty negotiations afterward. It's appropriate, Mereoleona replied, adjusting the formal robes the council had insisted he wear. Unlike her usual flame-colored attire, she wore ceremonial armor bearing both Clover Kingdom and Crimson Lion insignia, marking her official status. I look ridiculous, he complained, tugging at the ornate collar. You look like a king, she corrected. Which is the point? The formal outfit was admittedly impressive, deep blue with orange and gold accents, the spiral symbol of Uzushio embroidered subtly throughout. It managed to echo his ninja heritage while embracing his new role. Did you ever think we'd end up here? He asked suddenly. When we first met in that dungeon. Mereoleona considered the question. I thought you were an interesting opponent I'd enjoy defeating eventually. I didn't expect. What? Her fierce eyes softened slightly. Someone I'd follow into the underworld itself. Before Naruto could process that statement, Mora entered to announce it was time. Taking a deep breath, he followed the elder toward his coronation. The ceremony itself was both simpler and more meaningful than he had feared. Standing before his people and representatives from every kingdom, Naruto recited vows he had helped write, promises to protect, to serve, to uphold justice and equality regardless of magical ability. When Mora presented the crown, no longer the simple bronze circlet but a more elaborate design incorporating the crystal itself, now stabilized and diminished to an appropriate size, Naruto hesitated only briefly before kneeling. The crown makes not the king, Mora declared to the assembled crowd. The king's heart, courage, and wisdom earn the crown. Naruto Uzumaki has proven himself worthy not through birthright or magical power, but through sacrifice and service. She placed the crown upon his head. The crystal fragment glowed softly as it settled into place, resonating with his unique energy. Rise, Naruto Uzumaki, true king of Uzushio. The crowd erupted in cheers as Naruto stood, officially crowned at last. From the front row, Mereoleona watched with uncharacteristic softness in her usually fierce expression. Later, as formal treaty negotiations began in the council chamber, Naruto found a moment to step outside onto a balcony overlooking his kingdom. The setting sun bathed Uzushio in golden light, highlighting how far they had come from the scattered collection of outcasts he had first encountered. Admiring your handiwork? Mereoleona asked, joining him at the railing. Thinking about how strange life is, he replied. A few months ago, I was investigating energy disturbances at the Valley of the End. Now I'm a crowned king in another world. Do you regret it? She asked directly. Naruto considered the question seriously. I miss my friends. My home. But what we've built here. He gestured toward the thriving settlement below. It matters. These people matter. And if you found a way back tomorrow? Would you take it? The question hung between them, laden with unspoken implications. Naruto turned to face her fully. A few months ago, I would have said yes without hesitation, he admitted. Now? Now? She prompted when he hesitated. Now I have reasons to stay that I never anticipated. His eyes held hers steadily. Important reasons. Mereoleona stepped closer, the usual intensity in her gaze now focused entirely on him. The Crimson Lions have been officially assigned as liaison between the Clover Kingdom and Uzushio. I'll be splitting my time between both. Just doing your duty? Naruto asked with a slight smile. Initially, perhaps. Her hand found his, strong fingers intertwining with his own. But duty isn't why I followed you into the underworld. Or why I'm here now. Why are you here, then? He asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Instead of replying with words, Mereoleona closed the remaining distance between them. Unlike their first kiss, born of pre-battle intensity, this one was deliberate, unhurried, a statement of intent rather than impulse. When they finally parted, Naruto kept her close, forehead resting against hers. So that's why. A rare, genuine smile spread across her face. The uncrowned lioness and the Sorcerer King. The kingdoms won't know what hit them. Is that a yes to my unasked question? He teased. Do you need to ask it? She countered. Before he could respond, a shimmer in the air beside them interrupted the moment. A small dimensional rift opened, nothing like the catastrophic gateway from before, but a controlled, stable portal barely larger than a dinner plate. What now? Mereoleona muttered, instantly alert. From the rift emerged, a paper airplane. It sailed through the opening and landed at Naruto's feet. As he cautiously picked it up, the portal closed as quickly as it had appeared. What is it? Mereoleona asked, peering over his shoulder as he unfolded the paper. Naruto's hands trembled slightly as he recognized the handwriting. It's from Konoha. From Shikamaru. The note was brief but clear. Naruto, we've located your energy signature across the dimensional barrier. Working on stable transport method. Stand by for retrieval within next 3 months. Everyone misses you, you troublesome Hokage-to-be. Shikamaru Mereoleona watched his face carefully as he read the message. They've found you. Yes, he confirmed, emotions warring within him. Joy at contact with his home, anxiety about the choice now looming before him. 3 months, she noted, her voice carefully neutral. That's not much time. Naruto folded the note thoughtfully. Actually, it's perfect. Perfect for what? He turned to her with renewed determination. Perfect for establishing Uzushio's complete independence. For finalizing treaties with all 4 kingdoms. For training the council to govern effectively without me. Understanding dawned in her eyes. You're preparing to leave. I'm preparing for choices, he corrected. Genuine choices, not forced ones. He took both her hands in his. In 3 months, a door will open. I might walk through it. I might not. Or maybe. Maybe, she prompted. A grin spread across his face, that same determined, slightly mischievous expression she had first seen in the ancient dungeon months ago. Maybe doors can work both ways. Maybe bridges can be built where walls once stood. Maybe a sorcerer king can serve 2 realms. Mereoleona's eyes widened slightly before a matching smile curved her lips. Always the unpredictable one. You wouldn't have it any other way, he countered. No, she agreed, pulling him close again. I wouldn't. As sunset gave way to starlight above Uzushio, Naruto stood with his queen-to-be, watching over the kingdom they had defended together. Whatever the future held, whether paths diverging or converging, they would face it as they had faced everything else. Together. In the shadows between worlds, watching through a slowly healing connection, Lucifero observed the Sorcerer King with calculating patience. The game was far from over, merely entering a new phase. The harmonization technique had shown him possibilities even devils had never imagined. Enjoy your victory, King of 2 worlds, he whispered into the void. For doors, once opened, are difficult to close completely. The crystal in Naruto's crown pulsed once, as if in distant response. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.